Chapter 685. Mei Xuan's graceful body struggled intensely, her bright and beautiful eyes were filled with anxiety and pleading. Looking at Jun Moxie's face, who was just inches away, her eyes revealed a mournful and intense pleading. "Please leave me quickly. Please let go of your embrace. Only when you are safe, then I will have the courage to get through this. I beg you, please leave me quickly." Although she did not say it out loud, but Jun Moxie could clearly hear her inner voice. Jun Moxie remained motionless, and used even more strength to control Mei Xuan's body, almost using all of his strength. In order to control Mei Xuan, Jun Moxie even removed the protection of his true power at the weakest joints of his body, and shifted it to the places where Mei Xuan could struggle. If Mei Xuan were to forcefully struggle free from him, then, the first thing that would break would be Jun Moxie's four limbs. This method was extreme. After his four limbs were broken, in the current place where the lightning was concentrated, just the remnant power was enough to take away his nickname. So, Mei Xuan did not dare to struggle at all. In the next moment, Mei Xuan's usually indifferent, steady eyes actually turned into panic and despair. Feeling the clouds in the sky getting lower and lower, and the lightning in the clouds getting denser and denser, her tears finally flowed out. She looked at Jun Moxie pleadingly, her lips were blocked, but the despair and sadness in her heart was obvious. At this moment, Mei Xuan's heart was broken. "Sweetheart, if this world doesn't have you, then even if I break through to the level of Saint King, what's the point? I beg you. Let me go." Jun Moxie stared intently at her eyes, his warm gaze became stern, a pair of clear and ice-cold eyes, looking at Mei Xuan's eyes, revealing a stern expression. It was a clear warning, "Don't move. Do you dare to move again and see what happens?" Mei Xuan finally stopped struggling. Tears streamed down her face like a fountain. She could feel the heaven and earth spiritual energy rushing into her meridians. Finally. Boom! The fourth level of the venerable realm was finally broken through. An even denser and vast amount of heaven and earth spiritual energy rushed into her body, and at this moment, she truly felt a brand new realm, powerful and mysterious. Logically speaking, this was the situation he had been dreaming of for a long time. It was the happiest and most exciting moment to have one's wish come true. However, Mei Xuan didn't feel the slightest bit like this. All she could feel was despair. This was because there was a sudden flash of light in midair, and it was as if the entire world was illuminated. Two lightning bolts as thick as a finger struck down with unparalleled speed, connecting the heavens and the earth. His target was Jun Moxie's head. Mei Xuan closed her eyes and withdrew her Xian Qi protection. "Since you don't want to leave, then let's go together. Don't think that I can survive without you in this world, that's impossible." "Do you know," Jun Moxie's eyes revealed an indescribable smile. He felt the Hongjun Pagoda in his mind tremble. Then, a powerful aura rose. Suddenly, a funnel-shaped aura appeared above Jun Moxie's head. It was hard to see it with the naked eye. It seemed as if it was welcoming something. Jun Dashao wasn't someone who didn't know the gravity of the situation. But at the moment when the strange phenomenon appeared in the sky, he had a clear feeling that the Hongjun Pagoda could resist the power of heaven and earth. In fact, it wouldn't be difficult at all. This kind of feeling was really mysterious, it just appeared in his heart so abruptly. It was very mysterious. It was indescribable. Jun Moxie had always believed in his own intuition, so he wouldn't avoid it. Since he had such confidence, why would he let Mei Xuan take the risk to go through the tribulation? Right now, Jun Moxie clearly understood that this kind of power of heaven and earth, and the power of lightning, was most likely the heaven's tribulation mentioned in the Hongjun Pagoda. It shouldn't be wrong. But as to what level this heaven's tribulation was, Jun Moxie couldn't determine. Moreover, there wasn't enough time for him to look it up. He only needed to know that the Hongjun Pagoda would definitely be able to withstand it. The lightning arrived above his head in an instant, bringing with it a terrifying pressure and strong airflow. Mei Xuan could clearly feel Jun Moxie's hair standing on end. She stood up. She couldn't help but open her eyes, and looked at June Moxie's face with deep emotions. Could it be that this was the last time in this lifetime? But Mei Xuan discovered a scene that she didn't dare to believe. When the two powerful lightning came into contact with June Moxie's head, there wasn't the expected impact, nor was there any painful reaction from June Moxie. Instead, it disappeared without a sound. He had disappeared without a trace. He had disappeared so abruptly and without any reason. What's going on? What's going on? Mei Xuan seemed to have forgotten the sadness and despair from a moment ago. She watched in horror. Another bolt, another 2 bolts. Another 3 bolts of lightning fell down like a torrential downpour. Each bolt was extremely accurate, and each bolt brought with it an earth-shattering power. Then, they disappeared without a sound, and mysteriously above June Moxie's head, such a shocking power of lightning actually didn't harm June Moxie at all. How was this possible? Mei Xuan widened her big round eyes. She was so shocked that she couldn't speak. The thunder in the sky was getting louder and louder, and the frequency of the lightning was getting denser and denser, as if it was going to split the heavens and the earth. Split! The continuous flashes of lightning illuminated the entire night sky. Even the slightest bit could be seen. Under the illumination of the lightning, a man and a woman hugged each other peacefully, and kissed each other sweetly. It was as if the lightning that could split a mountain didn't exist at all. The 3 groups of people that came from afar stopped in their tracks. Only the 3 people in the lead flew over to take a look. Their faces were filled with shock. Even the 3 people in the lead had never seen such a terrifying aura before. Among the 3 of them, 2 of them had already reached the 4th level of the Venerable Realm. When they broke through, although they also had lightning on their bodies, the power was much weaker than the one in front of them. They couldn't even be mentioned in the same breath as the one in front of them. But now, the lightning had already lasted for close to 2 hours, and there was no sign of it stopping. Instead, it was getting fiercer and fiercer. Could this be the power of lightning triggered by a saint's breakthrough? These 3 people and their troops were the reinforcements that Xiao Tianya and the rest were anxiously waiting for. The unfettered Venerable Mo Xiaoyao, the Venerable of Life and Death Wei Kong Kun, and the desolate Venerable Jia Qingyun. Currently, they had left most of their troops 10 li away, and the 3 of them had snuck here. Looking at the dense lightning in the sky, they couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. Especially the 2 who had experienced lightning before, their scalps went numb, and their backs turned cold. From the looks of it, the person below should be able to hold on. Let's go over later and see if we can befriend him. At the very least, we can't let such a strong person stand on the opposite side of our 3 holy lands. If he really is a hermit, that would be the best. Mo Xiaoyao's eyes were filled with worry, but there was also a hint of excitement. The other 2 nodded, their faces solemn as well. Mo Xiaoyao said, however, we must pay attention to our words later. People like us in the 3 holy lands are used to being arrogant and undisciplined. If we say anything wrong and anger the other party, it will not be easy to explain. Making a strong enemy out of nowhere is not something we want. The other 2 laughed and said, we all came up from the bottom. If we didn't go through that period of pretending to be weak, would we be able to reach where we are today? Don't worry, we definitely won't mess things up. Mo Xiaoyao couldn't help but laugh as well. However, if this person doesn't accept our good intentions and insists on standing on the opposite side, we don't have to be merciful. Listen to my signal, let's attack together. Let's take advantage of the fact that he has just broken through and is at his weakest moment to finish him off. Remember, if such a situation really arises, we must use all our strength in the first strike. We must not be merciful. Just use your trump card. Jia Qingyun and Wei Kong Kun's faces also turned heavy. They nodded slowly and said, since that's the case, we'll prepare for both sides at the same time. No matter what, we must settle it perfectly. Mo Xiaoyao was the biological younger brother of the Palace Lord of Hermitage Missouri Wudao. They were born from the same mother. Mo Wudao was in charge of Hermitage, and his younger brother had become the protector of Hermitage. Originally, with Mo Xiaoyao's cultivation, he could totally be the protector of Hermitage. But in order to appease the masses, Mo Wudao had demoted him by a level and made a 4th level venerable his protector. However, Mo Xiaoyao did not have any complaints and still did his best to assist his elder brother. He was originally an intelligent person, and his actions were meticulous and thorough. It could be said that under the venerable level of Hermitage, everything was managed by him in an orderly manner. This time, the 3 of them had led their own teams here. Unintentionally or unintentionally, they had also acknowledged his leadership. And at this moment, his suggestion was also the best method. At this time, the thunderclouds in the sky suddenly stopped, and the earth-shaking rumbling also disappeared without a trace. In almost an instant, with a schwa sound, the dark clouds in the sky dissipated. Looking over, it was already a clear night sky. The stars shone brightly, and the moon had already set in the west. This terrifying wave of heaven and earth's might had finally passed. More daunting than dangerous. Jun Moxie finally crawled up from Mei Shuyan's body. It wasn't that he didn't want to improve, but this was the most crucial moment for Mei Shuyan. All the enlightenment needed to be done at this moment, all the new realms needed to be digested at this moment, and all the new abilities needed to be consolidated at this moment. So now was definitely not the time for him to be impudent. Mei Shuyan had already entered a meditative state. Jun Moxie looked at Mei Shuyan, and his expression suddenly changed. In the next instant, he had already gently carried Mei Shuyan, and the 2 of them were like water droplets that had melted into the ocean, quietly disappearing into the layer of snow below them. Chapter 686. First update. Because Jun Moxie could feel 3 powerful auras flying in their direction. Be it friend or foe, Mei Shuyan was at the most crucial moment and could not be disturbed. Thus, he immediately dove underground. Mo Xiaoyao and the other 2 venerables were extremely fast. Once they unleashed their full power, they traversed hundreds of zhang in an instant and landed right in the middle of the valley. Looking up, all they could see was a vast expanse of snow and silence. There was not a single person to be seen. This was the place where the lightning tribulation had happened. How could there be no trace of anyone here? It should be here, there's no way I'm wrong. But why is there no one? Could it be that my judgment is wrong? Mo Xiaoyao furrowed his brows and muttered. It can't be wrong. The location I sensed is also here. Everyone, look around. Jia Qingyun said. Something's wrong. Wei Kong-kun furrowed his brows deeply. Xiaoyao, we've both experienced the tempering of the heavenly lightning before. Every night, I dream of that day, and even now, I still feel a lingering fear. I remember that when I successfully broke through, the surroundings were pitch black, and the entire place had been struck until it was beyond recognition. Even the mountain peak I was on was smashed into smithereens. I think your situation should be similar. But look at this place. He sucked in a breath of air. Based on the power of the lightning just now, I wouldn't be surprised even if it flattened these 3 mountains, or even split them into deep valleys. The lightning tribulation just now was too terrifying. But this place seems too peaceful. Not to mention the mountains collapsing, even the snow on the ground did not move much. Xiaoyao, isn't this a little too abnormal? Mo Xiaoyao nodded, his eyes shining as he looked around the valley. As expected, I also thought of this problem just now. For such a phenomenon to occur, I guess there are only 3 possibilities. First, this person's strength has already reached the pinnacle, directly dissolving the lightning tribulation into nothingness. What about the second? Second, this person might have some magical treasure on him that can absorb and dispel the power of lightning. Mo Xiaoyao studied the surrounding terrain and said, thirdly, there's something strange about this land. The power of thunder and lightning cannot pass through, so it's hard to cause any damage. Wei Kong-kun laughed bitterly. I'd rather believe the second and third point than the first point. If that's really the case, then that person's true strength is too terrifying. I believe that even a saint-level expert might not be able to do that. It is indeed quite devastating. Mo Xiaoyao nodded, an indescribable expression on his face. But there's one thing that we can be sure of. Even if this person doesn't have that terrifying level of power, he's still no weaker than you and I. There's no doubt about that. That's right, there's no doubt about it. The other two nodded in agreement. It's probably because we came a step too late. This person has already passed the test and left. If it were us, we would have done the same. Mo Xiaoyao looked up at the sky, lost in thought for a while. Let's go. Even if that person hasn't gone far, judging from the current situation, he shouldn't have suffered any injuries. The prerequisite of our plan was for that person to lose a lot of Xian Qi after passing the test. Only then would we have 100% chance of winning. Right now, with the strength of the three of us, it's impossible to take down this person without paying a huge price. If this person's strength is truly unfathomable, chasing after him will only incur his displeasure. He shook his head, his expression somewhat dejected. The three of them looked at each other again and finally left. Jun and Mo Xia only heaved a sigh of relief when they had truly gone far away and met up with the rest of the troops, once again setting off in the direction of the Blizzard Silver City. The aura of these three people was not something that Xiao Tianya and the rest could compare with. They were truly powerful. Turning to look at Mei Shuyan, he saw that she was quietly closing her eyes with a peaceful smile on her face. Her entire body was emitting a holy radiance. For a moment, Jun Moxie was mesmerized by her beauty. After a long time, Jun Dashao suddenly sat on the ground. The reason was that the Hongjun Pagoda was starting to backfire. Jun Moxie felt as if his brain was being pierced by thousands of needles. Ever since he stopped the output, he had been extremely nervous. With the arrival of these three people, Jun Moxie used the last of his strength to dive into the ground. When the enemy was right in front of him, he didn't feel anything. Now that the enemy was gone, he relaxed and immediately felt that he had no more strength left to support his body. Thus, he sat on the ground without a care for his image. Even with Jun Moxie's current strength, he was still unable to control the massive output of the Hongjun Pagoda. Furthermore, it had lasted for such a long time. In addition, after the Hongjun Pagoda had absorbed the lightning, it had suddenly gone berserk for a brief moment. Jun and Mo Xia's state of mind had almost collapsed at that moment. Therefore, the backfire this time was unprecedentedly ferocious. It was even more ferocious than any of the previous times. Now that the danger was over and Mei Shuyan was about to break through, the relaxed Jun Dashao finally felt his fatigue. His head began to throb with pain. He sat quietly on the ground with his eyes closed, trying his best to endure the unspeakable pain in his head. However, he did not make a single sound, afraid that he would disturb Mei Shuyan's enlightenment. The muscles on Jun Moxie's face became more and more distorted. His entire body started to tremble as if he was convulsing. Beads of sweat started to drip down, drenching his clothes. The temperature here was extremely low. Once the sweat came into contact with the cold air, it would suddenly rise. In an instant, the underground snow cave was filled with a thick white mist. This time, it was not spiritual qi, but real water mist. Jun Moxie's sweat. He just sat there like that. In the end, he completely lost consciousness. After a long time, Jun Moxie woke up again. He felt a pair of gentle hands hugging him, gently wiping the beads of sweat off his face. At the same time, a majestic and warm Xian energy was continuously transferred into his body. He slowly woke up and saw Mei Shuyan's worried face. "How are you?" Jun Moxie smiled weakly and asked, "How do you feel after breaking through? Did you make any huge progress?" His eyeballs turned and realized that he had unknowingly returned to the tent in the campsite. And there were only the two of them in the tent. He tried to move but realized that his entire body was sore. The pain in his head did not lessen after he fainted. It still felt like there were 10,000 needles piercing his head. It was even worse than before. In just a moment, cold sweat started to form on his forehead again. It was really too painful. Mo Xia, don't move. Lie down and recuperate quietly. Mother and Qinghan came over earlier, but I asked them to go back and rest first. I said that I need to treat your injuries and no one can disturb me. I thought, you should have something to tell me. Mei Xuan's voice was gentle but choked with sobs. You fool, why didn't you say so earlier? Helping me raise my cultivation actually caused you to suffer such a heavy backlash. Why didn't you say so earlier? If you had said so earlier, even if I had to die, I wouldn't have let you do this. You're really foolish. Kiki. I have something to say. Of course I have something to say. June Moxie smiled weakly and said in a low voice, do you know? I just can't accept it. I just can't accept that I'm always being suppressed by others. There's always someone above me who can suppress me. That feeling is too disgusting. Cough cough. Ever since I came to this world, no matter what I do, I can always feel that my opponent is far stronger than me. They're always suppressing me. Every time I break through, I feel that my strength has increased greatly. When I feel that I can look down on everything, I'll meet a new enemy, a new and undefeatable enemy. Every time, I'll be suppressed to the point that I can't even breathe. Kiki. So every time I break through, I'll continue to fight with my life on the line. His eyes shone with a crazed light, sharp and somewhat hysterical. This feeling is not good. I'm really tired, it's so tough. But I definitely don't want to be suppressed by anyone, no opponent. I'm the evil monarch. I'm the sovereign of the night. Being suppressed by others, I can't accept it. And I can't accept it. I want to be above all my enemies, no matter how strong they are. Mei Xuan choked with sobs. She could feel the weakness in June Moxie's heart, as well as the crazed suppression. On this cold winter night, June Moxie, who had suffered a huge backlash, had fallen into an extremely weak state. For the first time in his life, he had openly revealed his feelings, his pressure, and his unwillingness. First, it was the secular world's imperial power. Then, it was a superpower like the Blizzard Silver City. It's like a mountain that has existed since the ancient times, far away on the horizon, but heavily pressing down on my heart. Then, the Shuihun Manor followed up with bullying and tyranny. Now, there's the three holy lands. Perhaps there's also the Misty Mansion or some other strong power. June Moxie closed his eyes, and his face flushed red. Let's not talk about the past. Just take the three holy lands as an example. Their trump cards seem to be endless. When I thought that a great master was an expert, a random Huang Tai Yang appeared, and he was a superior master. When I thought that was the peak, a large number of venerables appeared. Moreover, there were even saints who were above venerables. This huge pressure makes me feel powerless. It made me feel like I was facing an unshakable mountain at all times. I'm very sullen. I'm fucking sullen in this world. June Moxie fiercely took a deep breath. His eyes slightly opened, and a sharp cold light flashed in them. So, I want to smash them into pieces. Smash them all. Smash them all. These words came out from the gaps between his teeth, one word at a time. Today, I received a call from a buddy before I even got up. He wished me a Merry Christmas. I was very happy at that time. So, I said, it's too early. Then, he said, it's because I've just discovered that you're the most suitable person to celebrate this holiday. I was curious, and asked why. He said, it's because you're a real leftover egg. We're not. I flew into a rage at that time, and cursed, you're the leftover egg. Your whole family is leftover eggs. Your whole family wishes you a happy leftover egg festival. Chapter 687. That's why I've chosen this Battle of Blizzard Silver City. I've sent the letter of challenge a few months in advance. I want the whole world to know about it. I've had enough of this. I want to have a grand and spectacular battle. I want to take back everything that the June family has lost in the past. Whether it's blood debt or dignity, whether it's reputation or life. Whatever you owe me, I'll get it back bit by bit, with interest included. Therefore, even though I know that the three Holy Lands will definitely intervene with an unprecedentedly powerful strength, and that the future is uncertain, I still chose this decisive battle. I will not look back, and I will press forward courageously. Because I'm afraid, I'm really afraid. I'm afraid that if I continue to hide and retreat, my spirit will be completely obliterated. Jun Imo Xia leaned on Mei Shuiyan's bosom tiredly. His brows were tightly furrowed as he tried his best to endure the overwhelming pain in his mind. His eyes were still cold and sharp. You said before that this was a battle of personal feelings, and the conditions were not ripe yet. But I've still decided to do it. Although you don't agree with it, you still chose to support it. Because the main target of the three Holy Lands is no longer you. It's me. Believe me, even if I retreat to the ends of the earth, there will be no way to retreat. The corners of Jun Imo Xia's mouth curled into a cruel smile. In that case, we might as well go all out in one go and make an earth-shattering and heaven-shaking song. This battle is the most important one for us. If we win, we'll be on equal footing with the three Holy Lands. If we lose, we'll be doomed eternally. So we can't lose. But I can't improve myself now, so I'll use my ability to help you improve first. Jun Moxie's eyes were fixed on Mei Shuiyan. As long as you can successfully improve to the 4th level of the Venerable Realm, even if we lose this time, it won't be too bad. This is the least I can guarantee. I have to guarantee my safety first, and then we can talk about other things. Even if it's dangerous, I have to take it. Mei Shuiyan burst into tears. She leaned on his chest and sobbed quietly, feeling the pressure in his heart. The more she thought about it, the sadder she felt. It didn't matter if he was besieged, ambushed, or on the brink of death. However, he still had the Tian Fa forest to back him up. As long as he didn't die, he could return to the Tian Fa forest without any risk. No one dared to come to the Tian Fa forest to deal with him, not even saints. But Jun Moxie was different. No matter what happened, he could only handle it himself. Even though he killed decisively and looked down upon the world, it was only because he had no other choice. He had long since reached a dead end. Behind him was the Jun Moxie family, a huge but weak unique family. If Jun Moxie couldn't handle it, the Jun family would fall apart in an instant, or even be completely destroyed. The pressure on Jun Moxie was too great. Help me up. Jun Moxie felt his teeth were chattering, so he gritted his teeth and said again, help me up. Mei Shuiyan supported his head and pushed him up, making him sit upright on the cotton cushion. But she didn't know what he was going to do. Now, use your power on me. Jun Moxie gritted his teeth and panted. His eyes were filled with madness. Use your strongest cultivation, release your aura, completely lock on me, and only target me. Attack me with your most powerful aura. You broke through, I want to break through too. Jun Moxie panted heavily, come on. Use your aura to oppress me. Hurry up. Mei Shuiyan looked at him in a daze. Mo Xia, you. Are you alright? If he were to use his aura to attack at this time, wouldn't he be crushed to death? Especially since he had just broken through, he was still far from being able to control his strength. He needed a lot of practice. When I was in Tianxiang, Du Ju, who was also a martial venerable, used his aura to oppress me, which benefited me a lot. Jun Imo Xia knew that if he didn't explain clearly, Mei Shuiyan wouldn't make a move against him. He could only be patient and explain in detail. And the heaven-earth spiritual qi here is tens of times more abundant than in Tianxiang. His method is to use his own aura to mobilize the energy of heaven and earth, and turn it into pressure. It's as if it's real. Jun Moxie panted and said, although I don't know what kind of method it is, or what it's called, I know that it's similar to your heaven and earth cage. So I know that you can do it too. Attacking me like this will be of great benefit to me. Now, immediately display your strongest skills. Use your strongest aura to concentrate your attacks on me. Jun Mo Xia closed his eyes. I see. Knowing that Jun Mo Xia was fine and that he really needed to use this to cultivate, Mei Shuiyan was relieved. She took 2 steps back and took a deep breath to calm her emotions. Gradually, she returned to the tranquil state of mind. She just stood there without moving, but a vigorous aura had already risen from her body. It was endless, connected to the sky, and connected to the earth. The world was suddenly filled with a great pressure, as if it came from the ancient times. That's not right. Your aura lacks the necessary killing intent. It also lacks the strong sense of oppression in a life-and-death situation. Now, close your eyes. Don't think that the person in front of you is me. Just think that, the person in front of you is Lu Qiu, that perverted scoundrel, who is about to do something indecent to you. Jun Mo Xia instructed as he closed his eyes. However, his guidance almost made Mei Shuiyan so angry that she rushed up and kicked him. Thinking about this? Wouldn't that make her want to kill him? Strangely enough, as soon as Mei Shuiyan thought about this, she felt an inexplicable killing intent. Yes. That's it. Continue to increase your strength and unleash your strongest power. Unleash it to your heart's content. Jun Mo Xia was a little excited. He could clearly feel the extremely dense and pure heaven-earth spiritual qi rapidly converging on him from the top of his head. Mei Shuiyan closed her eyes and made up her mind. She released all her spiritual qi at the same time, which turned into a sharp and terrifying aura. Then she communicated with the spiritual qi of heaven and earth in a mysterious way. Slowly, an unprecedentedly powerful storm was formed. Then, it came crashing down on Jun Mo Xia. Jun Mo Xia felt his whole body become heavy. He felt as if he was being crushed under the 5 elements mountain. He felt as if all the bones in his body were going to be crushed and flattened into a meat patty. He couldn't help but shout in his heart, "Fuck! So fierce!" Mei Shuiyan's cultivation was already higher than Du Ju's to begin with, and now that she had broken through, with Jun Mo Xia's help, not only did she break through in one go, she even reached the middle stages of a 4th level venerable. Now, Mei Shuiyan's cultivation had reached the peak of level 4 venerable. Therefore, the spiritual qi of heaven and earth that she could use was more than 100 times more than Du Ju could. Faced with such a terrifying pressure, if it was any other revered martial artist expert, they would probably be crushed to death on the spot by her terrifying aura. Just when Jun Moxie felt that he couldn't bear it anymore, the Hongjun Pagoda in his sea of consciousness suddenly rose and rotated. Colorful rays of light shone in all directions. The moment the Hongjun Pagoda rose up, the piercing pain in Jun Mo Xia's mind suddenly disappeared. It was like the receding tide of the sea. With a shwa sound, it completely receded. At the same time, a huge amount of heaven-earth spiritual qi surged in from the top of his head. It was like a whale swallowing the sea. The Hongjun Pagoda was like a bottomless abyss, crazily absorbing the spiritual qi of heaven and earth that Mei Shuiyan had mobilized, and then instilled it into Jun Moxie's body. The people who were waiting anxiously for Mei Shuiyan to heal Jun Moxie were shocked. Last night, in such weather and in such a place, the unusual phenomenon of lightning and thunder had already shocked them. They didn't expect that in the middle of the night, such a strange phenomenon would happen again. It was as if the sun, moon, and stars in the sky had suddenly stopped moving. But above their heads, a huge patch of black sky suddenly appeared. It stretched for tens of miles, so dark that they couldn't even see their own fingers. Then, in the blink of an eye, the large patch of black that was almost blinding to the eyes suddenly disappeared. Instead, a large patch of strange whirlwind appeared in the sky. Everyone could clearly feel the existence of the whirlwind, but they could not see it. Bang! The whirlwind intertwined with each other, spinning and whistling, pressing down on the tent that Jun Moxie and Mei Shuiyan were in. All the Xian beasts, including the beast kings, were so shocked that their limbs trembled, not daring to move. This was because they could sensitively feel an aura that belonged to a saint king in this place. It was weak yet distinct. Solitary eagle, Feng Wanyan, and the rest looked at the spiritual qi storm in the sky and exclaimed, "Heaven and earth qi. How can there be such pure heaven and earth qi?" The two of them could be considered to be knowledgeable people. Such a strong and dense heaven and earth qi, how could they not want to absorb it? But when the two of them circulated their energy, they realized that although the heaven and earth qi in the sky was so dense that it was almost solid, it didn't leak out at all. No matter how much they circulated their energy, they couldn't absorb it at all. He could only watch helplessly as all the spiritual qi drilled into Jun Imo Xie's tent. It should be Venerable Mei who's using her peerless powers to heal the third young Master Jun's injuries. "Everyone, don't worry," Feng Wanyan sighed and said to the worried Dongfang Wenxin and Guan Qinghan. Hearing this, Dongfang Wenxin, Guan Qinghan, Jun Wui, and Dongfang Wenjian heaved a long sigh of relief. In the tent, as the heaven and earth spiritual qi entered, Jun Moxie's expression became better and more relaxed. Mei Xuyan opened her eyes and looked at Jun Moxie's expression. She was finally at ease. Once again, she circulated her divine power and turned it into a monstrous aura. It was like a divine dragon that could overturn rivers and seas. Once again, she expanded her manipulation ability and gathered all the spiritual energy in the world that she could control. The spiritual qi storm was formed once again. Once again, wave after wave came crashing down. The heaven and earth spiritual qi in half of the mountain range was instantly sucked dry. Then, it was quickly replenished from all directions, and then sucked dry again. The entire sky had turned into a vortex, a bottomless pit. Greedy and mysterious. Powerful. Let me tell you something tragic. I caught a cold. Yesterday morning, the electricity at home was cut off. After I used up the power of my laptop, I ran to the internet cafe. I typed until midnight before returning home. In the end, I caught a cold. When I got home, I shivered a little, but I didn't feel anything. Sigh, I can't take it today. Tears and mucus, the sorrow of an otaku. Usually, he would be fine if he didn't wear clothes at home. This time, he went out for the first time. Not only did he smell the stench of feet in the internet cafe, but he also caught a cold. There were only 2 more hours left today. Sorry. Hopefully, I'll get better tomorrow. I just ate 2 black and white pills and went to sleep. If I still can't take it, I'll need an 4 drip tomorrow. He had to say this from the bottom of his heart. It was not as good as when his legs hurt. At least he didn't feel dizzy then. Chapter 688. Slowly, the terrifying amount of spiritual qi gradually formed a certain pattern, and everyone finally recovered from the extreme shock. Bear Mountain, whose cultivation had already reached the level of a superior great master, was actually so frightened that his hands and feet had gone limp. This wasn't to say that Bear Mountain was a coward, but because of this innate king of Xian beasts' imposing manner, he couldn't help but feel fearful. Out of a sincere reverence for the king of Xian beasts, he almost revealed his true form in order to show his allegiance. With great difficulty, he managed to restrain himself and stood up shakily. However, he felt that his lower body was becoming more and more restless. Looking around, he snuck out and found a rather secluded spot behind a large tree, where he undid his pants and squatted down. A series of crackling sounds rang out, and a foul stench filled the air. After a while, Bear Fourth Master finally pulled up his pants and stood up, his expression much more relaxed. Fourth Elder Bear's mood had improved greatly as he went to relieve himself. He even had the time to tie his pants as he tilted his head to look at the tall pine tree in front of him. He muttered to himself, "It's so straight, damn it. So tall, so straight, it really looks like a tree that has been punished to stand still. This Bear Fourth Master has helped you fertilize today, it can be considered your good fortune." Just as he was muttering to himself, he heard a series of rustling sounds behind him. It turned out that many Xian beasts had pulled up their pants and were strolling over. From the looks of it, all of them had been frightened by the imposing manner just now. Their faces were pale, and their lips were pale, without any trace of blood. However, it seemed that they were still better than before. In the past, when they encountered a strong Xian beast who was advancing, they would directly deal with it on the spot. The last time the 6 Beast Kings had advanced, they had caused the Tian Fa forest to be filled with landmines. Now, at least they knew how to take care of their own face, and knew how to take care of their clothes. They even knew how to find a more secluded place. They had really improved. Mei Shuiyan's aura was the most intimidating to them. It was not something that the 6 Beast Kings could compare to. Even a Beast King like Bear Mountain, who was slightly weaker than Mei Shuiyan, was filled with fear. Although Mei Shuiyan was already trying her best to restrain her aura, trying her best not to affect the others and focusing her aura on June Moxie, the vast pressure still filled the space. Even if it did not have any actual killing power, the Xian beasts could still feel it clearly and were panicking because of it. This was in their bloodline, an aura that they were born to submit to. It was a sincere reverence that came from their bones. If it was someone else who released this aura, it might have aroused their strongest fighting spirit. But now, it was impossible. They could only worship. What are you panicking for? Fourth Master Bear tightened his belt and shouted, "All of you, line up obediently and come one by one. Don't make a foul-smelling mess. How can you be so uncultured? Do you think this is your own home? If you embarrass yourself outside, not only will you lose face, you'll also lose face for the entire Tian Fa forest. Do you understand?" The Xian beasts nodded their heads obediently. It was unknown if they really understood. It was a pity that this tree was directly drowned in feces and urine. But there were also benefits. In the next few hundred years, it would flourish and grow even more luxuriant, far surpassing other trees of the same generation. Inside the tent that was directly above the 2 people's heads had already disappeared. Waves of heaven and earth spiritual chi and pure green spiritual chi surged into the tent through the gap, then disappeared without a trace. This small gap was like a black hole that could swallow heaven and earth spiritual chi without limit. Young Master June's complexion also became redder and redder with the influx of heaven-earth spiritual chi, becoming brighter and brighter, almost turning purple. In fact, his complexion only returned to normal after his complexion reached a purplish-red color. June Moxie lightly gestured to Mei Shuiyan, indicating that she could stop. Mei Shuiyan understood and immediately retracted her aura, dispelling the killing intent in her heart. Her aura gradually returned to a calm state. This time, it could be said that the Hongjun Pagoda's spiritual chi had almost reached the point of bursting. It had greatly exceeded the amount of spiritual chi he had before. The spiritual energy in his body had also increased greatly. June Moxie could clearly feel that he was on the verge of breaking through at any time. Perhaps he only needed a little bit of enlightenment, a little bit of luck, to break through to the 5th level of the Hongjun Pagoda. Right now, the distance to breaking through was like a thin layer of window paper. It would be broken with a single poke. And in this process, June Mo Xia could clearly feel the invasion of his heart's demons. The 7 emotions and 6 desires were constantly disturbing him. Everything from his previous life to his current life flashed through his mind. Even the most minute things were clear to him, and not a single thing was left out. It was like a clear stream, so clean that the bottom could be seen. Sometimes, his heart was filled with anger. Sometimes, his heart was overflowing with tenderness. Sometimes, he was burning with desire. Sometimes, he was wild with joy. Sometimes, his chest was filled with hatred. Sometimes, he was at a loss. All kinds of feelings and complicated emotions gathered in his heart. Great joy, great sorrow, great anger, great joy, all of them intertwined with each other. At this moment, June Moxie only guarded the last trace of peace in his heart. He didn't care about anything else. No matter how many disturbances there were, it would be difficult to disturb the calm lake of his heart. No matter what he encountered in the dreamland, whether it was his tragic death, the separation of his wife and children, the destruction of his family, or the death of his loved ones in front of him, he didn't have the slightest emotional fluctuation. It was as if he didn't see it. It seemed like it was only a moment, but it also seemed like he had experienced thousands of reincarnations. When he opened his eyes again, no matter what he saw, he felt a sense of vicissitudes and a sense of unfamiliarity. It was as if he had really experienced thousands of reincarnations before he returned to reality. Even the moment he saw Mei Xuan, he couldn't help but be startled. At this moment, a strange feeling of being so close yet so far away was born in his heart. Do you feel that everything in front of you is very strange? Whether it's people or things, it's the same. It's as if you've experienced thousands of years of loneliness. Mei Xuan smiled and looked at him. She asked in a strange voice. She could be considered an experienced person. When she saw the expression in Jun Moxie's eyes, she instantly knew what Jun Dashao was thinking about. That's right. What's the reason? Or is it because everyone has the same feeling when they break through? Jun Moxie tried to use his true qi and felt a golden energy flow surging in his meridians. He felt that his strength was endless. It was as if he could lift up a mountain with one hand. More or less, that is indeed the case. You now possess the strength of a level 2 venerable. It happened in front of me, but I still can't believe it. I didn't expect that your breakthrough would be so fast and smooth. And it's so strange. The strange expression in Mei Xuan's eyes became more obvious. Once a breakthrough is successful, everyone will have some kind of illusion when they break through. It's as if they've really experienced countless lives, one life after another. And this illusion is strangely real. When their minds return to reality, they will have a feeling that the reality they're in right now is unreal. In order to pass this stage, I had to wait 3 whole years before I could truly return to normal. That's you. Jun Moxie blinked his eyes and smiled. But who do you think I am? I'm a peerless genius. I'm not as stupid as you. Isn't everything fine now? Huh. His expression actually returned to normal after a moment of shock. Mei Xuan looked at him in shock. She didn't expect this baddie, whose skin was thicker than the city wall, to be able to recover immediately after breaking through. This was too unbelievable. One had to know that that was the mark of thousands of reincarnation cycles. Could it not affect him at all? Could it be that this guy was so heartless? Or was a peerless genius really that amazing? Silly girl, you've overlooked something very important. Jun Moxie looked at her gently and said, because when I broke through, I had feelings in my heart. And those feelings were right by my side. That's why I could walk out of it so quickly. When you broke through that day, your heart was not only clear, it was also empty. Even though you were unfettered and relaxed, at the same time, you were heartless. That's why you went through 3 years of confusion. And when you broke through to the 3rd level, you were trapped by the 7 emotions. You have to know that emotions are the root of all living things. In the cycle of reincarnation, only emotions are eternal. If you put it that way, that makes sense. Mei Xuan thought for a while and finally nodded in agreement. I was originally a heartless person. Once, I didn't care about anything. There was never the most heartless, only more heartless. I don't know if it's because the heavens are watching over me, but they've given me another life filled with the word emotions. Whether it's family, friendship, or love, I've experienced it all myself. So right now, I'm at my most healthy. Even though this stage isn't completely free of obstacles, it's not a big deal. Naturally, I'll be able to return to normal very quickly. Jun Moxie smiled. His face was filled with warmth. Also, his aura had changed imperceptibly. An ethereal charm slowly appeared on his body. How are you? Did you comprehend anything after your breakthrough? Jun Moxie looked at Mei Xuan with a smile. Did you comprehend any earth-shattering move? The kind that can kill millions of people in one move? How can there be such an exaggerated move in this world? Mei Xuan looked at him impatiently and said, but it's true that I've gained something. But compared to a freak like you, my breakthrough is just a matter of time. Your method of breakthrough is really special. You can actually use the powerful aura that others exert on your body to cause a breakthrough. Moreover, it's completely harmless. It's really an unimaginable method of breakthrough. Without a doubt, this was the strange doubt that Mei Xuan couldn't understand no matter how she thought about it. The cold wasn't serious, just a little dizzy. This morning, I woke up and immediately went for an infusion. Since last year, I had to rely on an infusion to cure my colds. Since then, I seem to have developed an infusion dependency. Every time I catch a cold, I have to get an infusion. So this time, I didn't wait until it was serious, and directly went for an infusion. I have to say, an infusion is really a management. This afternoon has already been a lot more relaxing. Chapter 689. This is indeed very mysterious. Only I would do something like this. Even if I explain it to you now, you may not be able to understand. Moreover, I have only just found out about this method not too long ago. All of this can only be said to be a coincidence. Jun Moxie pondered for a while, thinking about how Ju had used his spiritual power to oppress him. He could not help but smile. We should go out now. I'm sure everyone is getting impatient. Mei Xuan nodded. Since Jun Moxie did not want to talk about this, she would not ask. Some things were a secret that belonged only to Jun Moxie. Even if Jun Moxie wanted to talk about it, she did not intend to listen. Because she could hear a strong sense of melancholy and loneliness in his words. I was originally a heartless person. Nothing could affect me. There was never the most heartless, only more heartless. I do not know if it is the blessing of the heavens, that they have given me another life filled with the word love. This sentence seemed to be confusing and difficult to understand. However, even though Mei Xuan also did not understand, she could hear something strange in it. So she chose not to ask. She only wanted to use her tender feelings to heal all the scars in her lover's heart, that was all. When Jun Moxie and Mei Xuan went out together, everyone could clearly feel that the two of them had changed. But no one could tell what had changed. They could only feel that they were different from before. They were very different. After some small talk, it was finally quiet. Everyone dispersed, leaving only Jun Wui, Dongfang Wen Xian, Solitary Eagle, Feng Wanyun, Jun Moxie, and Mei Xuan. Tomorrow is the 2nd of February. It is the day that I said, on the day when the flowers bloom in spring, Silver City will be broken with one sword. I plan to go to Silver City for a stroll tonight. Jun Moxie looked at everyone and said slowly, sometimes, it is better to know the enemy as well as yourself. You are going alone. Dongfang Wen Xian frowned and showed a worried look. Can you do it? It's okay. Jun Moxie smiled. If I can't do it, then no one in this world can. Mo Xie's words may sound arrogant, but they're also true. Jun Wui smiled as he agreed with his nephew's boasting. Dongfang Wen Xian looked at Mei Xuan. Mei Xuan nodded lightly, looking very confident in Jun Moxie. Then you must come back soon. Don't let us worry too much. We are very worried today. Dongfang Wen Xian said with a worried look. A loving mother's heart had always been like this. No matter how powerful her children were, in her eyes, they were still the children who needed her to shelter them from the wind and rain. Jun Moxie nodded and said, Third uncle, it is better for you to rearrange the formation tonight. The main thing is to design some formations that can deal with the joint attacks of masters who are several levels higher than them. In tomorrow's battle, they will definitely be lacking in this aspect. As long as we can use this method to delay the time, it will be convenient for us to arrive in time to help. It is too late for you to say this. I have already made the arrangements and plans. Jun Wui smiled and said, Don't worry. Even if there are masters among the enemies, I will not let them carry out the beheading operation smoothly. Ha! Everyone laughed. Everyone naturally understood what Operation Decapitation referred to. Jun Wui's face was a little strange. Jun Moxie's face was also a little unnatural. Both the uncle and nephew were a little strange. Jun Wui roughly knew what Jun Moxie's main purpose was. This time, it was not just to test the situation. There should be a more important purpose. Han Yen Yao. Jun Moxie wanted to go and see if this woman, the cause of all the tragedies, was really worthy of his third uncle's love. It would be too late if he waited for the dust to settle. What was false could become real at that time. Therefore, Jun Mo Xia couldn't be at ease. After all, Han Yanyao was the cause of everything. Therefore, Jun Wui was worried, but also very eager to know. He was even more anxious than Jun Moxie. I don't know how little Yao will feel when she finds out that I have led troops to attack Blizzard's Silver City. Watching Jun Moxie go out, Jun Wui quietly took out a silk handkerchief from his bosom. He slowly unfolded it, and there was only a lock of soft hair inside. There were 4 lines of beautiful words on the handkerchief. I have not combed my hair for 10 years. I look at Tian Xiang every night, and never look back in this life. Jun Wui suddenly felt an inexplicable sense of security in his heart. She will not let me down. Little Yao, you will not let me down. The sun gradually moved to the west, and the world gradually turned pitch black. But the snow on the ground reflected the light, and the entire area was silvery white. It was bright and elegant. Jun Mo Xia's clothes were whiter than snow as he quietly swept out of the tent. Mei Shuyan followed behind Jun Moxie. She watched him soar into the sky, and then suddenly disappear. She stared blankly for a long time. Then, she went back. Jun Mo Xia flew through the air without any misgivings, charging towards the snowy peak with a speed akin to that of a bolt of lightning. No one would be able to see his flying figure at this moment. The speed of the Yin Yang escape was absolutely beyond the limits of any Qin Gong in this world. In fact, it was more than twice as fast. Relying on this astonishing speed, it didn't take him long to see the city hidden deep in the snowy mountains. It was frozen between heaven and earth. Blizzard's Silver City was truly worthy of its name. Looking from afar, countless snowflakes floated down, and enveloped this silent city of ice. It was mysterious and spectacular. The surrounding 7 peaks surrounded the city like stars surrounding the moon. Although there were snowflakes floating in the sky, there were still stars shining in the sky. Specks of starlight shone on the snowy ground and the mountain peaks, reflecting sparkling and translucent colors. Then, they converged and formed beams of resplendent multicolored light that reflected on the Silver City itself from all directions. This made the ancient city of ice present a dreamy and magnificent color. Anyone who saw this city for the first time would have a strange dreamy feeling in their heart. In front of the Blizzard's Silver City, there were 4 huge icicles. There was only one word on each icicle, and when put together, it was, Wind, Snow, Silver, City. It looked simple and crude, but it was very imposing. It was simple and unadorned, yet heroic. It was as if 4 giants were guarding the gates of the Blizzard Silver City for eternity. Night had fallen, but there were still many people shuttling back and forth in the Blizzard Silver City. These were low-level disciples dressed in white. Their faces were filled with an indescribable expression. Some were excited, some were frightened, and some were fervent. This was because many great people had entered the Blizzard Silver City today. They would use their strength to help the Blizzard Silver City resist the foreign invaders. Each of these people was a legendary figure. The names of each of these people were earth-shattering, powerful, and powerful enough to write a legend. This made them, the juniors, put down all the burdens that they had been carrying in their hearts for some time. There were also many people who were patrolling and talking in low voices. Hey, do you think we can resist the attack from the Jun family with our current strength? Are you kidding me? Even without these seniors, it would be a piece of cake for our Blizzard Silver City to deal with the Jun family. And with these seniors, I think the Jun family should be the ones who should be worried. That may be the case, but everyone has been saying that the Jun family's strength is growing very fast. No matter how sharp they can't be sharper than the 3 Holy Lands, right? The powerhouses of the 3 Holy Lands can directly what? Directly like a heifer flying to the sky. That's true, it's really flying all over the sky, that's right, you worry about falling out of bed and falling to your death. You worry about too many things. Jun Moxie was not in the mood to pay attention to these juniors of the Blizzard Silver City. He directly pierced through the square like a sharp sword towards the brightly lit main hall in the middle of the square. It was so late, but still brightly lit. Tomorrow was the day that the June family would send the letter, but he did not rest early to conserve his energy. Would he be so abnormal if it wasn't for the June family? How could those bastards from the Shao clan be in the mood to sing and dance and have a lantern night banquet? June Moxie silently passed through the wall made of thousand-year mysterious ice, and found himself in the central hall of the Blizzard Silver City. This hall was indeed bustling with noise and excitement. Moreover, he did not recognize most of the people here. A man and a woman were sitting in the main seats. The man was tall and handsome, and the woman was elegant. They looked to be in their 30s, and should be the current lord of the Blizzard Silver City and his wife. Moreover, he could vaguely see Han Yen Meng's shadow on their faces. However, their complexions were not particularly good. There were a dozen or so old men sitting on one side of them. They should be the elders of the Blizzard Silver City's Han family, Shen Xian. On the other side, a white-haired handsome man sat slightly lower than the lord. His hair was as white as silver, and his face was as tender and fair as a baby's. He should be the great elder of the Shao family, Shao Xingyun. Because June Moxie could see his Xian Qi cultivation at a glance, Shen Xian 4th grade. Moreover, he should have been stuck at this level for a long time. He could clearly see that the meridians in Shao Xingyun's body had been mysteriously severed due to his unique eyesight after his breakthrough. And it was precisely this interruption that caused him to have no hope of ever entering the ranks of the great masters. This is probably the result of my grandmother's underhanded methods. June Moxie couldn't help but praise in his heart. This grandmother of mine is quite a character. She's very decisive. Without saying a word, he had severed a person's future. That's very ruthless. Behind Shao Xingyun, there were a dozen or so old men with grizzled hair and beards. Their clothes were as white as snow, and they were presumably from the Shao family. There were 3 middle-aged men sitting at the head of the group opposite the people from Silver City. Their expressions were calm and composed, and their bearing was elegant. Their faces were warm like jade, but their eyes were filled with a sharpness that couldn't be looked at directly and couldn't be resisted. Hidden in the depths of their eyes was a feeling of having experienced the vicissitudes of life in the mortal world. None of these 3 men were simple. It seemed that they were the leaders of the 3 holy lands. These days can be said to be one disaster after another. Something has happened in the group. I'm very disappointed and sad. I've made friends with all my brothers and sisters in the group. I can't bear to part with any of them. I care a lot about them. These virtual emotions are very precious to me. I'm an only child, and I don't have any brothers or sisters since I was a child. But I have a lot of them on the platform of this network. I've always believed that these feelings are very real. Very pure. Every brother and sister in the group is very cute and kind. I care a lot about you. I care a lot about you. All the brothers who have entered the group know that I can talk to anyone, and I can even joke around with them. It's very relaxing. I hope to bring everyone a peaceful nest, and let my brothers and sisters laugh in the group. I've always been trying my best to take care of them, and I've always been carefully protecting them. I've even taken care of the feelings of my brothers and sisters. Perhaps it's very foolish of me to do this. But I really can't bear to part with them. I can't bear to part with anyone who used to be with me. I can face thousands of curses and accusations from strangers, and I won't take it to heart. But I can't bear to leave you unhappy. I don't want to lose them. Watching my brothers and sisters chat in the group every day is my greatest pleasure outside of writing. This feeling is very good. Everyone can leave, but I hope that you can leave happily. Even if you're not satisfied with the book or me, as long as you say it, I'll still give you my blessings, and watch my brothers and sisters leave. I'll only leave behind the happiness we once had in my heart. Perhaps we'll meet again one day, and we'll still be able to smile at each other, and chat warmly. This is my greatest wish, but I've finally discovered that there are some things that I'm powerless to do. There are some things that I can't help with even after I've tried my best. Chapter 690. Third update. Fourth update. Behind these three were the Venerable of the Horizon, Xiao Tianya, the Venerable of the Broken Sword, Hua Fengwen, and the Venerable of the Cruel Blade, Chu Wu Qing. The three of them did not look much different from the last time they met, only their faces were slightly pale, and their eyes revealed traces of indignation. They had joined hands to find someone to demonstrate their strength, but instead, they were intimidated by the other party. A total of 6 experts had gone, but 2 had died, and 1 was seriously injured. The remaining 3 were also injured. How could they not be angry? The 3 venerables were so sullen that they were about to faint. They had never been so sullen in their lives. On the side of the 3 holy lands, only these 6 people were present. The other experts were not present. But, just the 6 of them were already enough. Not to mention a total of 6 experts, even if there was only one of them, it would be enough. When June Moxie arrived, the Lord of the Silver Blizzard City, Han Zhanmeng, was speaking. He had a worried look on his face as he said slowly, "I think everyone is clear about the past and the causes and effects of the past. I won't say much here. But regarding the June family, I personally think it's better to wait and see. If we forcefully intervene, I'm afraid we will be accused of using our strength to bully others, and we will be tarnished by the Holy Lands." Xiao Xingyun snorted and said, "From what the Lord has said, can I take it that this matter was done by the Xiao family, and the consequences should be borne by the Xiao family alone? In other words, now that the June family's army is here, the Xiao family will be pushed out, and the June family will be slaughtered and wiped out. In this way, we won't have to fight each other and we won't have to hurt each other." "Great Elder's words are too much," Han Zhanmeng said calmly. "Everything in the world has its own rules, and the people have their own way of thinking. You reap what you sow. I'm afraid that outsiders can't do this for you. There's a saying in the pugilistic world that you will have to pay for what you did. Everyone knows who was right and who was wrong back then. Are you saying that you can bully the June family, but the June family is not allowed to seek revenge?" He smiled forcefully and said, "An eye for an eye. This is the right thing to do. This time, the June family has openly come to our doorstep. So, you can slaughter the entire June family if you have the ability to do so. In fact, you won't even leave a single person alive. This city lord will not stop you in any way. What about on the other hand? The meaning of the Lord's words need not be said. The Silver Blizzard City wouldn't intervene even if our Xiao family were to be exterminated if the June family were to become much stronger than us." Xiao Xingyun sneered and looked at Han Zhanmeng with a sharp look in his eyes. "I didn't misunderstand the meaning behind your words, did I? The Xiao family has been loyal to the Silver City for generations, but what have we gotten in the end? In exchange, the Silver Blizzard City. When a strong enemy was pressing down on the border, he couldn't get the support of his master. City Lord Han, aren't your words a little bitterly disappointing?" Han Zhanmeng had received instructions from his father, Han Fengshui, so he naturally would not back down. But now that the Xiao family had the support of the 3 holy lands, their wings had hardened. Therefore, the 2 of them started quarreling in the meeting hall. This was the first time in the history of the Silver City that an elder and the city lord were going against each other. Mo Xiaoyao looked on coldly from the side, not intending to speak. "Great Elder, don't tell me that I have to repeat this from the beginning?" Han Zhanmeng's wife, Flying Frost, Xue Shuangqing, frowned slightly and said, "When the Xiao family dealt with the June family, they also sent people without saying a word. It wasn't until the entire world was in an uproar that we found out from the mouths of our disciples that the Xiao family had dared to commit such a heinous crime by killing the Tianxiang military's white marshal Jun Wuhui. Back then, when you acted willfully, did you ever treat us as masters? When the city lord ordered you to return immediately, what did you do? Didn't you still create chaos in the world and only returned when you were satisfied with your achievements? What do you think of our Blizzard Silver City by doing this?" After he returned, the lord of the city repeatedly ordered that no one should ever lay a hand on the Jun family again. But, 3 years later, you conspired to kill 2 of the Jun family's rising stars. How can I not feel disdain for such actions? Xue Shuangqing was a little angry and said, "Ask yourselves, when did you ever treat yourselves as subordinates of the Silver Blizzard City? Back then, you acted willfully and killed so happily. Now that they have come for revenge, you want the Silver Blizzard City's Han family to take responsibility for you. What kind of logic is this? When you caused trouble, you went to have fun. But when it gets bigger and you can't solve it yourself, you want us to be your scapegoats. And you want the Shao family to continue conserving your strength and bide your time?" Xue Shuangqing's face was a little red. Is there really such a good thing in this world? But you are still the city lord of the Silver Blizzard City. You can't deny this. If you can't protect the safety of your subordinates as the city lord, then what's the point of us pledging our loyalty to you? As a qualified leader, shouldn't you act like this? Do you want to throw away your own brothers and sisters when something happens? Do you want to live a peaceful life on the sidelines? Then, what is the Silver Blizzard City? Xiao Xingyun's eyes flashed as he asked in a loud voice. If you can't protect your subordinates and uphold justice, then I, Xiao Xingyun, will make a bold request. Xiao Xingyun's eyes shone as he looked around at the crowd. Then, he said in a loud voice, "Then I ask the Han family to hand over the position of the city lord and the control of the Silver Blizzard City. Because we can't accept being bullied by a cowardly master, that's such a cowardly thing. This was the greatest humiliation for a martial arts sect. If you don't have the guts to uphold justice for your subordinates, then we will do it ourselves. The Han family doesn't need to bear this title anymore. Uphold justice. Uphold justice. I really don't understand how you can say these 2 words. In the end, you still want the position of the city lord, don't you? Your wild ambition has finally been exposed. Xiao Xingyun, you've been planning for this day for a long time, haven't you? Are you confident now? Are you ready to reveal your true intentions?" Han Zhanmeng narrowed his eyes and looked at Xiao Xingyun coldly. "Han Zhanmeng, don't try to accuse me. You're timid, weak, and incompetent. What gives you the right to be the city lord? Is it because you're the eldest son of the Han family? Now that the seniors of the 3 Holy Lands are here as witnesses, you've already revealed your despicable intentions of betraying your subordinates. What more do you want?" Xiao Xingyun sneered. "Don't tell me you want to use your position as the city lord to oppress others. You must know that from now on, the Shao family will no longer recognize you as the city lord and will no longer be a vassal of the Han family. Very well. Xiao Xingyun, are you finally showing your true colors?" Han Zhanmeng looked at him coldly. "Let me ask you. Where are the 3rd elder and the 6th elder now? Have they already fallen into your evil hands? Where are Mu Shuetong and Meng now? Xiao Xingyun, you've been planning this for a long time, haven't you? To think that you have such good patience, to be able to endure until now, when your hair has turned white before revealing it. Now, we're talking about the current crisis. The disaster of the Jun family is imminent. As for the 3rd elder and the others, how would this old man know where they are? Maybe they've gone somewhere to play, and they're having too much fun." Xiao Xingyun sneered. "You must know that Xiao Han and Xiao Fengwu are also part of the Xiao family's team. This old man is much more anxious than you are. Oh, could it be that you were afraid that the Xiao family would usurp your authority, so you sent people to assassinate them? It's no wonder. You only have 2 daughters in this generation, and the Silver Blizzard City has no successors. But this old man didn't expect you to be so vicious. You buried the future of the Silver Blizzard City for such a despicable purpose." Xiao Xingyun retorted, but everyone who heard him felt their hearts skip a beat. Many people turned to look at Han Yanmeng with a faint look of suspicion in their eyes. Xiao Xingyun's words could be said to be a sore point in everyone's hearts. Han Zhanmeng trembled with anger. Even his eyes had turned red. He had already discovered that something was wrong with Xiao Xingyun's words. When asked earlier, he always said that the third elder and the others were outside doing something. But when asked now, he actually said, "How would I know?" It was so contradictory that it was easy to guess what was going on. "Xiao Xingyun, you're really vicious." Han Zhanmeng slapped the armrest of his chair and stood up. He stared at Xiao Xingyun and said word by word, "You will pay for what you've said and done." Pay? This old man has already paid for it. Our Xiao family has already paid for it for countless generations. Xiao Xingyun laughed mournfully. I've been a slave for hundreds of years. I've been ordered around by the Han family for hundreds of years. Isn't that enough? The Xiao family has been loyal and devoted for generations. But in exchange for the miserable ending of being abandoned today, was such a price not miserable enough? Even if we have to pay more, can't we afford it? Han Zhanmeng. Don't try to come up with such empty words. This old man won't fall for it. Jun Moxie did not expect to be caught up in the internal strife between the Han and Xiao families in Blizzard's Silver City. Looking at the two quarreling below, but the faces of the people from the three Holy Lands were expressionless, Jun Moxie suddenly thought, the Xiao family must have reached some kind of agreement with the three Holy Lands. Otherwise, with so many venerable experts here, how would the Xiao family dare to be so presumptuous? Not to mention seizing power, they probably wouldn't even dare to speak loudly. Who would have thought that the three Holy Lands, who looked so dignified on the surface, would actually participate in other people's private struggle for power? Jun Moxie rolled his eyes. Since you guys are so shameless and want to bite back, let me add some fuel to the fire. The third elder and his men had been silenced, so there was no evidence left. There were still two survivors from the Han family who were still in the tent at the foot of the mountain. They definitely wouldn't be able to get here in time. But the people from the Xiao family definitely wouldn't have been silenced as well. Even though they were crippled, they weren't dead. Even that bastard Xiao Han wasn't dead. How could he have disappeared without a trace? He must have been hidden by the Xiao family. Chapter 691. Fourth update. Jun Moxie snickered sinisterly, and flew out with a whiz that day. Blizzard Silver City had sent out 6 elders and the 7th sword, a total of 13 people. Xiao Han, Mu Shuetong, Han Yanmeng, and Xiao Fengwu were also there. The 3rd elder, the 5th elder, and the 7th sword master had been besieged and killed by the Xiao family. But the Xiao family had dispatched 4 elders, the 2nd elder, Xiao Buyu, the 6th elder, the 8th elder, and the 9th elder. Xiao Buyu had been toyed with, and had been forced to perform a striptease in front of everyone. And the 6th elder had been pierced through the chest by his sword. However, the 8th and 9th elders hadn't died. As for the 2 youths of the Xiao family, Xiao Fengwu had been crushed to death by him. But Xiao Han, he had only turned him into a cripple, but he did not seem to have died. It was impossible for him to have evaporated into thin air. You want to obtain the position of City Lord fairly? How can it be so easy? I want to make you feel uncomfortable. I want to make you eat flies when you eat. I want to see how shameless you can be. If I don't play you bastards to death, my name is not Jun Moxie. Jun Dashao flew out like a bolt of lightning. Just as he flew out, Mo Xiaoyao, who had been resting with his eyes closed, suddenly raised his head. His eyes were filled with doubt as he looked at the hall. Although it was just a simple glance, and he did not even look at anyone in the hall, the power in his eyes was like lightning, silencing the quarreling crowd. Venerable Mo Xiaoyao, with his 4th-level spiritual sense, could clearly sense a powerful presence suddenly appearing and disappearing. He looked around slowly, his eyes filled with caution and doubt. But he did not find anything, and he closed his eyes unwillingly. Could it be a misperception? At this time, Wei Kong-kun quietly said, "It's not a misperception, there is indeed someone. Just based on this technique, this person's strength is not below ours." Mo Xiaoyao nodded quietly and replied, "Let's wait and see. If he appears again, we'll work together to drag him out and kill him in one strike." As soon as Jun Moxie got out of the hall, he instantly spread out all of his divine sense. It was like a heavenly net, without any loopholes. House by house, his speed was incomparably fast. This was a spiritual sense that belonged to him. It was very difficult for anyone to discover it. Even experts who were stronger than Jun Moxie were no exception. This ability was the heaven's net spiritual sense that he had comprehended in a flash after his breakthrough. It was as vast as the sky and as mysterious as the universe. Everyone could see it, but no one could touch it. Although it was a huge silver city, it only took a short while for the search to be completed. However, the result was very surprising. Could it be that the Shao clan was really so ruthless that they would not hesitate to kill two of their own experts in order to frame them? It couldn't be, right? Jun Moxie frowned. Suddenly, he dived down from the sky and entered the ice layer with a whoosh. Then, he started to search underground again. Just as he had expected, there were countless secret chambers underground. With a thought, Jun Moxie used the power of earth and the yin-yang escape. Then, he started to search bit by bit. When he found the vast space under the Silver City's Great Hall, he suddenly met with a strong obstruction. Even though he had just broken through, and his powerful deific sense was still unable to penetrate it. It was as if there was a mysterious force protecting that place. This mysterious force was undoubtedly very strong. There was no doubt about this. Moreover, this was definitely not the kind of deific sense that belonged to humans. Instead, it was a mysterious and special force that he couldn't understand. It was warm and strong, vast and mysterious. Jun Moxie's heart shook. He simply avoided this direction. However, he firmly remembered it in his heart. To think that there would be such a strange place in the Silver Blizzard City. If he had free time in the future, he would definitely go and see what was going on. When his deific sense turned to the left, his spirit was finally roused. Found it. Jun Moxie directly pierced through the soil without any hesitation. Wasn't this guy lying on the bed in the secret chamber Shaohan? On that day, Third Master Jun was kind and only crippled his martial arts. However, Jun Dashao didn't let him go so easily. He gouged out his eyeballs, tore the tendons of his arms and legs, cut his ears and nose, dug out his tongue, broke his spine, and even crippled his fifth limb, but he didn't kill him. Although living like this was more painful than dying, Jun Moxie's purpose was to let him live like this. Die? Wouldn't that be letting him off too easily? Therefore, he had also injected a huge amount of vitality into his body. As long as the outsiders didn't kill him, and he didn't lack food, then Shao Han wouldn't die. And the truth was just as Jun Moxie had predicted. Although Shao Xingyun and the others were cruel and merciless, they couldn't do anything to their own descendants. Therefore, they still secretly raised him. Seeing that there was no one in the secret chamber, Jun Moxie appeared in front of Shao Han's bed with a whoosh sound. He sniffed the air, and a trace of dissatisfaction appeared on his face. The place where such a crippled person lived in was an underground secret chamber, but there wasn't the slightest smell. It seemed that the Shao family had taken good care of him. He took 2 steps in the secret chamber. Although Shao Han couldn't see, his senses were exceptionally sharp. He could sense that someone was beside him. He moved his arm, and a puzzled look appeared on his face. Shao Han, I know you can hear me. That year, I cut off your ear, but I didn't burst your eardrums. Guess which one I am? Jun Moxie moved closer to his ear and asked with a smile. Suddenly, Shao Han's deformed face revealed a horrified expression, as if he had seen a ghost. He shook his head vigorously, and his tongueless mouth emitted a strange, ho-ho sound. At the same time, resentment and hatred emerged from the depths of his heart. You can hear me, and you even guessed which one I am. You're quite smart. This feeling right now, isn't it good? Jun Moxie said gently, but his tone revealed a deep cruelty. Today, I came to add another main dish for you. Because I realized that you're living too comfortably, so comfortably that even the heavens can't tolerate it. How can this be? This is too disappointing. Xiao Han's body struggled violently, and his face revealed a bone-deep fear and pleading, as if he was begging June Moxie to let him go. "Don't worry, I definitely won't kill you. I really can't bear to see you die. You're lying so obediently right now, why would I want to kill you?" June Moxie smiled, and suddenly took out a medicine bag from his bosom. He opened it, pinched Xiao Han's chin, and poured the medicine into his mouth. "This is a good medicine, and there's only one in the entire Xian continent. This was specially prepared for you before I came here. In this world, besides you, there's no one else worthy of this medicine. You really should feel honored, because you're already unparalleled in this world. After taking this medicine, you'll itch every day, from the bone marrow to the outside. And it's the kind that can't be scratched. It'll make you itch so much that you want to commit suicide every day, but I can't find any problems with it. You've done so much for my June family and my third uncle, how can I not repay you?" June Moxie smiled mischievously. "I'll make you the #1 itch in the world, and it can also be considered as fulfilling your great reputation." June Moxie took out a small golden flying knife from his bosom, and reversed the flow of his spiritual energy. He conveniently smeared the 1,000 evils and 10,000 poisons fruit on the flying knife, and then lightly pricked Xiao Han's 10 fingertips and 10 toes. It was really a light pricking, and it didn't even hurt the skin. "So," he said in a very satisfied manner, "I know that you're a beast, and your senses are extremely sharp. Aren't you surprised that you didn't even hurt the skin after so many movements? Don't be disappointed, because soon, your fingers and toes will slowly fester, and they'll slowly fester into a yellow liquid. Don't worry, you won't die, and it'll fester all the way to your neck. I reckon that you'll still be able to breathe, and it'll take at least a few years. Slowly enjoy it, Xiao Han, this is our June family's way of repaying you." At this time, Xiao Han was already screaming in pain, and the medicine he had taken had already begun to take effect. Xiao Han's entire body began to tremble. June Moxie laughed, and disappeared in a flash. In the secret room, Xiao Han's body swayed in fear, and he used all of his strength to tremble, and moved little by little. Finally, he fell off the bed with a thump. The servant outside heard the sound, and hurried in, but only saw Xiao Han struggling on the floor, no one. "Strange, he's already so crippled, but he can still struggle to get out of bed." The servant shook his head in puzzlement, and went forward to carry him back to the bed. But Xiao Han was struggling desperately, and was almost unable to control himself. His mouth couldn't speak, and his body couldn't even express the strange itch. Moreover, his body couldn't be seen on the surface of his body. All of this pain could only be endured by himself, and no one else could see it. Moreover, the pain from his fingertips and toes felt as if they were being pulled out from his bones, and the pain was extremely excruciating, but his hands were crippled, and he couldn't even write. He could only silently endure the world's torture, until the end of his life. Xiao Han's current misery could be said to have never been seen since ancient times. It seemed that in the entire world, only the evil prince, June Moxie, could come up with such a cruel punishment. This was the retribution he deserved for his misdeeds. June Moxie instantly flew out of the secret room, and nimbly controlled the power of earth. Soon, he found the secret room where the 8th and 9th patriarchs were hiding. It was not far from Xiao Han, and their rooms were next to each other. The standard of that place was much higher than Xiao Han's. That day, both of their legs were broken, but they didn't suffer any other losses. Their Xian Qi strength was also maintained at the original level. Moreover, the stone rooms that the two of them lived in were quite spacious, just like a small home. They had everything they needed to eat and wear. Right now, the two of them were gathered in the 9th Elder's secret chamber, drinking tea and playing chess to kill time. Beside them, there were a few women serving them, and they seemed to be their family members. 2 old men, both dressed in white robes, sat opposite each other. These 2 old men both had white hair and a youthful complexion, and were in good spirits. In front of them was a chess board, and the sound of the chess pieces falling was crisp and sweet. The two looked at each other and smiled. From the teapot beside them, steam slowly floated out, and a rich tea fragrance wafted in all directions. Seeing this scene in front of him, June Moxie was a little envious. Fuck. This was simply the life of an immortal. Fuck, they're actually more comfortable than me. Are you two handicapped people? June Moxie was jealous. Without a doubt, the consequences of making June Dashao jealous were quite serious. In the book comments section, I saw 2 lines of a poem by Holy Question. The evil prince of a generation has no regrets, and there are 2 people in this vast world. I will continue with these 2 lines, and have some intimate contact with this friend. The evil prince of a generation has no regrets, and there are 2 people in this vast world. Chapter 692. June Moxie floated in and gently flicked his finger. The 3 women didn't see or feel anything as they fell asleep one by one. Fortunately, June Dashao was a gentleman and didn't kill the women. Otherwise, there would only be 3 corpses lying on the ground. It's you, June Moxie. The 8th elder's eyes widened as he recognized June Xia. His eyes revealed a deep hatred as he asked, "How did you get in?" The 2 men looked at each other as an ominous thought arose in their minds. Could it be that the Silver Blizzard City has fallen? But, didn't Big Brother say that the 3 Holy Lands sent hundreds of experts to help us deal with the June family? How could they have fallen so quickly? How I got in doesn't seem to matter. At least it doesn't matter to you. What's important is something else. I want to congratulate the 2 of you. You'll be able to get out soon. Seeing the light of day again, hee, aren't you surprised? June Xia didn't have the time to waste with them. He directly sealed their acupoints with a finger. With his current strength of a 2nd-level venerable, dealing with these 2 first-level spirit Xian was naturally a piece of cake, and it was as easy as blowing off dust. The other party simply didn't have any room to resist. June Dashao easily subdued the 2 men and immediately carried out the next step of his plan. His eyes flashed as he shouted, "Soul manipulation." This time, he didn't rely on any external force, but directly used his purest mental strength to forcibly hypnotize them. In an instant, he completely lost the minds of the 2. June Moxie's eyes emitted a strange light as he firmly locked onto the 2 men's eyes. The 8th elder and the 9th elder's eyes changed from resentment to bewilderment. Then, they turned docile and even sincere obedience. The soul manipulation that June Moxie had used since his breakthrough was similar to the soul manipulation that Tian Xian had used when he was still a beginner. But, the effects were not the same. This time, the hypnosis was the most thorough and the purest. Tonight, I want to turn this Silver Blizzard City upside down. The corner of June Moxie's mouth revealed a cruel smile. The demonic light in his eyes grew brighter and brighter. In the Silver City Hall, the debate between the Han and Shao families had reached its climax. Han Zhanmeng's face was solemn and sorrowful, and his tone was cold as he said, "Shao Xingyun, ever since the Silver City was built, we have been through countless hardships. For generations, the Han family has abided by the teachings of our ancestors and taken good care of the Shao family. No matter what benefits there are, the Shao family can take it first, and the Han family can take it. Whenever there is danger, the Han family will fight bravely and let the Shao family enjoy the fruits of others' labor. Let's not talk about the past. Let's just talk about the day you slaughtered 2 of the June family's juniors, triggering the Dongfang family's crazy retaliation. If my father hadn't gone against his will and made an exception by inviting the head of the 8 Supremes, Yunbi Chen, to join forces to suppress the Dongfang family, do you think you and your brother could really defeat the old lady of Dongfang with your meager strength? I'm afraid that the Shao family would have been in danger of being exterminated then. Such tolerance and care has been going on for hundreds of years. Generations of ancestors were also respectful to each other, and the closeness was even greater than that of real brothers. But when it came to your generation, you actually have the wild ambition of a wolf, going against the grain. Not only do you want to usurp the position of the city lord, but you also want to slaughter your own people. Such actions were intolerable and intolerable by the heavens. Shao Xingyun, ask yourself honestly. How can you face the ancestors of the Shao family who have shed blood for the Silver City? Well said. Han Zhanmeng, since you have said so, let me ask you something. The teachings of our ancestors are still hanging on the wall. You also said that the ancestors of the Shao family worked hard for the Blizzard Silver City, and they did their best. But now, how are you treating the Shao family? You still have the cheek to say such things. Who is the one who doesn't match their words and actions? Shao Xingyun's face was full of grief and anger. His white beard trembled as he pointed at Han Zhanmeng and shouted, "Back then, Shao Han and Yan Yao were childhood sweethearts. The adults of our two families negotiated and decided on the marriage. When did either side have any objections? Once they grew older, they would get married and live happily ever after, growing old together. That would be an extremely beautiful thing. But you, Han Zhanmeng, did not teach your daughter well. After she left the mountain, she hooked up with a man and even said that she would not marry anyone else. At that time, the marriage agreement between the two families was still in place, and the oath was still ringing in our ears. How could she do such a despicable thing? That was a disgrace to the Shao family." He took a deep breath and said, "How can my Shao clan be willing to let this kind of humiliation go so easily? I believe that if it was any other family, they would not let it go so easily. However, not only did you not reprimand your daughter for her misdeeds, you even wantonly obstructed our Shao family from taking revenge, forcing us to swallow our grievances back into our stomachs. Don't you know that our Shao family is also a large family? The Shao family also has its own dignity. Have you considered all of this? But you only know how to side with your own daughter. You don't care about the face of the Shao family at all. You stubbornly insist on doing things your own way. You are not allowed to take revenge after your wife was stolen. What kind of logic is this? In this world, as long as one is a man, who can tolerate this kind of humiliation?" Han Zhanmeng looked over with bloodshot eyes and said hatefully, "Shao Xingyun, you don't need to invert right and wrong here. The truth had long been decided. Back then, when Yao was still young, the marriage was indeed arranged. But at that time, my wife solemnly said that the marriage was set for the time being. If the two of them grew up in the future, as long as they liked each other, they could get married. But if their temperaments were not compatible, it could be discussed otherwise. Didn't these words exist? When the marriage was set, all the elders of the two families were present to bear witness. I believe that no one has forgotten these words. As for Shao Han's character after he grew up, everyone here is well aware of it, so I won't say anything more. Only Yao has always been against this marriage. Before they left the mountain to train, she begged for the marriage to be annulled several times. She even knelt in front of you once, begging you to help her. You can't possibly have forgotten about this, right? What did you say at that time? I remember you saying that marriage is a major event for the two of them. If they really can't get along, then they shouldn't force it. After all, a forced melon is not sweet. You said these words yourself. You can't have forgotten about it, right? With my wife's words and your own words, although the marriage still exists, it is only in name. At most, it has not been announced to the public. Who in the entire Silver Blizzard City wasn't aware of this fact? How could it ruin the reputation of the Shao family? After Yao left the mountain, she met the Jun family's third young master, Jun Wui. The two of them fell in love with each other, but Yao never revealed her identity. She wanted to preserve the reputation of the Shao family. She only wanted to return to the Blizzard Silver City and formally cancel the marriage. Then, she would reveal her identity to Jun Wui so that the three families could live in harmony and not have any conflicts. After Yao returned to the mountain, you and I found out about this matter. You won't pretend to be ignorant and say that you don't remember, right? But now, you want to use it as reason. What is the meaning of this? The matter is so obvious. Jun Wui obviously didn't know about the inside story, and the rest of the Jun family is innocent. But your Shao family came down the mountain with great fanfare, captured Yao and forced the Jun family. Yao is the daughter of the city lord, but she was forcibly escorted back by you. I didn't say anything at that time because I felt sorry for the Shao family. Although it is known to all, it was our Han family who proposed to cancel the marriage first. So, we are indeed in the wrong. But you went from bad to worse. You colluded with thieves, and killed the White General Jun Wuhui and his 2 brothers. This caused the Jun family's reputation to decline, and they almost couldn't recover. You deliberately didn't kill Jun Wuhui, and paralyzed his lower body, making him disabled to this day. How innocent is the Jun family? They didn't even know Yao's identity from beginning to end, and they were harmed in such a way. They were wronged. Jun Mou and Jun Mo Cho didn't even know why they died. If not for the Dongfang family's intervention, this matter would have remained a mystery. Don't you think that you've gone too far? After returning to the Blizzard's Silver City, you made a big fuss about this matter, and tried to force Yao to get married immediately. You even used the Jun family as a hostage to force Yao to raise her sword and mutilate herself. She almost died, and lived alone in seclusion on the Sword Peak for 10 years. Why did you forget everything you said after the incident happened? Tyrannical, overbearing, and overbearing. The Han family didn't pursue this matter for the sake of our ancestors' teachings, and in order to keep the peace. Even when the Shao family proposed to rearrange the marriage between Shao Fengwu and Meng, I didn't hesitate to go against my conscience, and I wanted to compensate for the previous marriage. I agreed on the spot, and I didn't make things difficult for you. It can be said that I've already done everything I could. Shao Xingyun, think carefully about all the things that your Shao family has done in the past few decades. When did you ever treat the Han family as your master? On the other hand, has the Han family ever treated the Shao family as a slave in these hundreds of years? Now that you're saying this, isn't it infuriating? Shao Xingyun sneered, yes, most of what you've said is true. This old man did say those words, and I also admitted that the marriage could be cancelled. But the truth is that your daughter, who doesn't know how to respect herself, hooked up with someone else before the marriage was officially cancelled. Isn't this the truth? This old man has always been a reasonable person. If the marriage is cancelled, you can marry your daughter to whoever you want. That's your family's business. It has nothing to do with the Shao family. Moreover, this old man watched Yan Yao grow up, and I've always loved her like my own. How can I not hope for her happiness? If the marriage is cancelled, and she has a husband's family, not only will this old man not make things difficult for her, but whoever makes things difficult for her will also be making things difficult for me. Chapter 693. Shao Xingyun's expression didn't change. He simply ignored him and continued to speak with fervor and assurance, but the problem is that Han Yanyao was still the daughter-in-law of the Shao family when this happened. She didn't officially cancel the engagement. Han Zhanmeng, you won't deny this, right? At that time, the entire Silver City knew that the engagement might have to be cancelled. But take note, it was only a might, in other words, everyone knew that there was such an engagement. Since there was such an engagement, she fooled around with a man, and that was unethical. Treacherous. Unscrupulous and shameless, having an affair. Fooling around with a man was equivalent to losing her chastity, and that was a disgrace to the Shao family. Now that such a thing has happened, that oily green hat will forever be stuck on my Shao family's head. This is something that cannot be denied. Han Zhanmeng, do you still have any doubts about what I said? Shao Xingyun. You're simply spouting nonsense. Xue Shuangqing was trembling with anger. How many years has it been? You made such a fuss 10 years ago, and now you're bringing it up again. Even if it was an engagement, it was only a verbal one, and there was no betrothal certificate. Yao has never entered the Shao family's door, and she has always been pure and clean. Even today, how is this a disgrace to the Shao family? Is the Shao family even worthy? Who do you think you are? Ha ha ha, well said, you've finally said what's on your mind. Our Shao family has been loyal and devoted to the Silver City for dozens of generations. Our Shao family has been loyal and devoted to the Silver City. But now, the city lord's wife has said that our Shao family is unworthy. That we are not a thing. Ha ha ha. Ancestors, did you hear that clearly? This is the Han family's reward for our loyalty. This is the Han family's oppression of the Shao family's descendants. It has reached an unbearable level. Even a woman dares to stand up and scold the current leader of the Shao family. From today onwards, my Shao family will draw a clear line between us and your Han family. We cannot live under the same sky. Shao Xingyun laughed mournfully. He suddenly turned around, and faced the portraits of the Silver City's ancestors on the wall. Then, he laughed mournfully and said, "Star First Ancestor, you didn't care about your own safety at that time. You blocked a knife that was aimed at your sworn brother. But, you paid with your life. But, did you ever think that your descendants would be bullied and humiliated by your sworn brother's descendants hundreds of years later? If you could see this from heaven, I wonder how sad you would be. Would you feel that it was not worth it?" Shao Xingyun's voice was full of tears, and his face was mournful. He looked as if he was about to die from grief and indignation. He sighed and said, "As long as the Silver City exists, the Shao family's descendants will never die. The teachings of our ancestors have been passed down from generation to generation, and we will never go back on our word." City Lord Han. City Lord Han, the oath that you made in front of the heroes of the world is still ringing in my ears. Now, your descendants are going to exterminate our Shao family. If you can see us in heaven, please open your eyes and take a look. Our Shao family is in deep water and we can no longer bear the burden. We have been forced into a corner. Shao Xingyun. You are shameless. Han Zhanmeng was so angry that his whole body trembled uncontrollably. Looking at Shao Xingyun, who was so good at talking and singing, he wanted nothing more than to strangle him. They had been together in the Silver City for so many years, but he didn't know that the great elder was such a good actor. Shao Xingyun's words were enough to make one's lungs explode. Our Shao family's descendants have such a bitter life. Shao Xingyun's face was full of tears. Suddenly, his expression changed, and he gritted his teeth and said, "At least there is still a place for justice. The three holy lands have always been fair and just, benefiting the world and benefiting the common people. At this moment, the elders of the three holy lands are here to witness the ceremony, and they can uphold justice for the Shao family's descendants who have been bullied. Give our frozen snow mountain a peaceful world, and give our blizzard Silver City a bright world." This old man firmly believes that there is justice in the hearts of men. The cycle of cause and effect, and retribution. What men do, the heavens watch. There will always be a witness for a loyal heart of blood. After Shao Xingyun's sonorous and powerful speech, he suddenly turned around and bowed deeply to Emo Xiaoyao, the unfettered supreme, who had been watching the show from the sidelines. His expression was one of sorrow and joy at the same time. It was as if he was a tenant who had been oppressed by a rich landlord for thousands of years, and had finally been liberated from his predicament. "Elder Emo, you've seen the truth of the matter here today. Right now, my Shao clan is facing the calamity of extinction. It is truly difficult for us to protect ourselves, and our future is uncertain. I hope that you can uphold justice. Give justice to our Shao family. Let the world see the light of hope again, and let the world know that justice is not to be desecrated. Loyalty is not to be insulted. Please, uphold justice." Shao Xingyun bowed down, and just stood there, not raising his head. Behind him, the elders of the Shao family suddenly stood up, rushed over, and knelt on the ground, shouting, "Venerable from the three holy lands, please uphold justice." Their movements and voices were uniform, as if they had been rehearsed in advance. Han Zhanmeng trembled with anger, and his lips trembled. His face turned purple, and he could not speak for a moment. Shao Xingyun's words had confused black and white. He had inverted right and wrong. He had gone against his conscience to tell lies. Moreover, his voice and countenance had been beautiful. His words had been filled with sincerity and grief. They had been extremely moving. However, none of his words had been true from the beginning to the end. It had to be said that to be able to learn such skills in one's lifetime, he could be considered a genius, a genius. If Xiao Xingyun had even half of this level of attainment, not to mention Shen Xian, he could even be a supreme, a venerable, or even a saint. Could shamelessness really make one invincible? For a moment, the hall was in an uproar, and the elders of the Han family were all filled with righteous indignation. They had never thought that a person could be so shameless. The truth was clear to everyone. But, Xiao Xingyun had turned black into white. It was obvious that the Xiao clan had bullied the weak and persecuted others. But, he had turned it into the Xiao clan that had been persecuted. He had even tried to quibble that he had been wronged. Xiao Xingyun, a man lives with his face, and a tree lives with its bark. Do you still want your old face? The Xiao family's ancestors' reputation has been ruined by you just like that. Xiao Xingyun. You old man, you are too shameless. All these years, everyone has seen how the Xiao family has been doing in Blizzard Silver City. How can you still have the face to say such words? Inverting black and white and pestering endlessly. Xiao Xingyun, it's fine if you are shameless, but your entire Xiao family is shameless as well. How could you do such a shameless thing? This old man was truly blind in the past. How could I not see that you are actually such a despicable person? If not for the presence of the people from the three holy lands, this hall would have already turned into a bloodbath. At this time, the Venerable of Life and Death from the Supreme Golden City, Wei Kong Kun, had a solemn expression on his face. He coughed heavily, and his majestic eyes swept across the hall. Everyone was stunned by his aura, and without exception, everyone stopped talking and looked at him. Regarding the fight between the Xiao family and the Han family, this old man is an outsider, and should not interfere. However, as the saying goes, justice is in the hearts of the people. This old man has been watching from the sidelines for a long time, and has more or less understood what is going on. I wonder if City Lord Han and Elder Xiao are willing to listen to this old man's words of justice. Wei Kong Kun said with great deliberation. Senior Wei is an expert with a great reputation. If you have something to say, please say it. This junior will listen with respect. If you have any instructions, this junior will obey. Xiao Xingyun bowed respectfully, but did not straighten his back. Han Zhanmeng pondered for a moment and said, if Senior Wei has any suggestions, please speak. This junior's mind is in a mess, and I do not know what to do with the current situation. I would like to ask the seniors from the three holy lands to give me some pointers. Although Han Zhanmeng's words were beautiful, everyone could hear that he had left a lot of leeway in his words. It was not as rigid as Xiao Xingyun's. Everyone could understand the difference between instructions and suggestions. Wei Kong Kun said with a smile, your two families have been friends for generations, and have probably been friends for hundreds of years. It would not be an exaggeration to say that your relationship has been going back a long time. Now that your city is facing a great enemy, and your soldiers are at the gates of the city, you are making such a big fuss over such trivial matters. In this old man's opinion, the gains do not make up for the losses. You must know that the Blizzard Silver City's prestige is not something that the Han family or the Xiao family can accomplish alone. Do you have any objections to this old man's words? Xiao Xingyun said respectfully, Senior Wei's words are like gold and jade, enlightening even the deaf. This junior is deeply ashamed. Han Zhanmeng felt that something was wrong. He thought to himself, what do you mean by avoiding the important and dwelling on the trivial? Why is it that even if the Jun family attacks, they will only target the Xiao family? What does this have to do with the Han family? How did such a big conflict turn into making such a big fuss over such trivial matters between men and women from your mouth? What do you mean by that? But with Wei Kong Kun's status, Han Zhanmeng did not dare to offend him rashly. He could only say reluctantly, Senior Wei is right. In that case, this old man will continue. Wei Kong Kun had a benevolent countenance, and his voice was exceptionally gentle and pleasing to the ears. For Blizzard Silver City to stand tall until now, the Han family and Shao family's contributions cannot go unnoticed. Both families have sacrificed a lot for this city. Or it can be said that Blizzard Silver City belongs to both the Shao family and the Han family, and there is no distinction between them. It's not wrong to put it this way, is it? Xiao Xingyun nodded his head in agreement. The more Han Zhanmeng listened, the more he felt that something was wrong. He furrowed his brows and did not speak. What do you mean by, Blizzard Silver City belongs to both the Shao family and the Han family? Blizzard Silver City has always belonged to the Han family. What you're saying is simply confusing concepts and distorting facts. Since the two families belong to the same family, it doesn't matter whether the Han family or the Shao family is in charge. Wei Kong Kun said. Since that's the case, isn't it easy to resolve the conflict between the two families? The Han family has been in charge for hundreds of years, so what's the harm in temporarily giving way to the Shao family? It's our family's property anyway. Regardless of whether it's the Han family or the Shao family, it's still Blizzard Silver City. Everything is for the greater good, and everything is for stability. City Lord Han, this old man advises you to take a step back. Senior's meaning is, for this junior to hand over the position of City Lord to the Shao family? Han Zhanmeng asked in shock. He had never imagined that a senior from the Three Holy Lands, who were known for their fairness and impartiality, would say something like this. What kind of person was this? This was a matter of changing dynasties. How could it be settled with just a few words from you? What was going on? You want Blizzard Silver City to be surnamed Shao with just a few words? According to what you've said, all the rulers of the past dynasties were conquered by generals who commanded thousands of troops on the battlefield. Doesn't that mean that they can just let the generals take over the position of the ruler after some discussion? This was simply ridiculous. There was no limit to the idiocy. This kind of person was actually the leader of the Three Holy Lands. That's right. This old man's suggestion was made with good intentions. Your two families are willing to damage the friendship for a mere city lord's position. Why bother? How can we ignore the teachings of our forefathers? Are we going to throw away our hundreds of years of friendship just like that? Wei Kong Kun sighed. Today, the Shao family is in charge of Blizzard Silver City. Isn't it the proof of the friendship between the two of you? For the sake of brotherhood, for the hundreds of years of friendship. Glory, splendor, and wealth are but fleeting clouds. Even if you throw it all away, what's the harm? Today's matter will definitely become a legend in the pugilistic world. Brother Wei's words are reasonable. Back then, when the Han family took over Blizzard Silver City, they had already sworn an oath. And it has continued for hundreds of years without changing. This kind of perseverance and trust is a model that everyone in the pugilistic world praises. Mo Xiaoyao sighed. Now that the Shao family is in charge, they naturally have to swear an oath to protect the interests of the Han family forever. Both of them wanted to use the power of these few sentences to make the Silver City's ownership change a reality. That's right. This Shao here, with the seniors and experts of the Three Holy Lands as witnesses, makes a great vow. From now on, my Shao family will never abandon the Han family, and we will be friends forever. As long as Blizzard Silver City exists, the descendants of the Han family will never die. Generation after generation, this oath will never be broken. At this moment, Xiao Xingyun was already beaming with joy. Although his willpower was strong, seeing that his life's goal was about to be achieved, he could not help but smile from ear to ear. He also wanted to swear an oath, but in his excitement, he could not think of a better way to say it. He actually changed the oath of the Han family's ancestors and said it out loud. Chapter 694. Good. City Lord Shao is indeed a hero of his generation. To make such a decision so quickly, he is truly sincere. Moreover, the vow was sincere, and the feelings were deep and righteous. It was unchangeable throughout the ages. What a generous and benevolent person. Jia Qingyun clapped his hands and laughed. Today, this old man can witness such a wonderful tale of the pugilistic world. It is truly my honor. Shut up. A Han family elder couldn't help but scold angrily, no longer caring who was in front of him. The eyes of everyone from the Han family had turned red. At this point, everyone could see that the three Holy Lands were obviously colluding with the Shao family to help the Shao family seize the Blizzard Silver City. Everyone present was a veteran of the pugilistic world. How could they not understand that the three Holy Lands had come here to deal with the Jun family and Tian Fa? But the Han family's attitude was clearly biased towards the Jun family. The three Holy Lands actually did not hesitate to ruin their own reputation and come up with such a plan to transfer the Han family's authority to the Shao family, to complete the change of Blizzard Silver City's dynasty. Such a thing was truly unheard of since ancient times. Such a shameless matter was actually spoken of in such a righteous and benevolent manner. The chests of everyone from the Han family were almost about to explode from anger. You want this old man to shut up? Wei Kong-kun smiled faintly as he looked at the Han family elder. You really want this old man to shut up? Don't regret it. Venerable Wei, please calm your anger. I still have something to say. Han Zhanmeng stood up and said. What? You have something to say? What can you say? Wei Kong-kun narrowed his eyes and smiled lightly. Could it be that you don't agree with this old man's words? As he spoke, a heavy aura, as if a storm was brewing, spread out in the hall. The three Holy Lands are the leaders of the pugilistic world. This has been the case since 10,000 years ago. This Han has always admired the three Holy Lands. However, although the three Holy Lands are the leaders of the pugilistic world, they are not the citizens of Blizzard Silver City. Today's matter is a family matter of our Blizzard Silver City. This city lord believes that even if the Holy Lands rule over the world, they can't interfere with this, right? Han Zhanmeng's eyes were burning with anger, but he forced himself to control it. Blizzard Silver City has always been a city of its own, and has never belonged to any faction. Even if it's the three Holy Lands. Although we respect the three Holy Lands, we're not their vassals. Moreover, the position of our Silver Blizzard City's lord won't change overnight just because of the forceful interference of a certain power. I hope that Senior Wei will be magnanimous enough to understand this point. Han Zhanmeng was neither servile nor overbearing, but his expression was one of grief and indignation. He said without backing down. He clearly knew that the person in front of him was a super expert. Although his cultivation was not ordinary and he could be considered a powerhouse of the present age, the other party could crush him with a single finger. Although he knew this, he still said it without blinking his eyes and his expression didn't change. So you're saying that I've been talking for so long, but it's the same as farting in front of you? Wei Kong-kun's face gradually turned cold. Han Zhanmeng, is that what you mean? I wouldn't dare. Even a fart should have a bit of a stench or a bit of a noise. As the saying goes, smelly farts don't make a noise, and loud farts don't stink. However, Senior Wei's words did not have any stench or noise. It's not even comparable to a fart. This sentence did not come from Han Zhanmeng, but from outside. The moment this sentence was spoken, everyone in the hall was shocked. Who was it that dared to mock a venerable expert of the three Holy Lands like this? He's got guts. I didn't think that the Silver City would have such guts. The one who spoke is that bastard. Scram out here for this old man. Wei Kong-kun flew into a rage and spun around, looking at the door. The fake benevolence on his face had long disappeared. As a peak expert, he was actually scolded in the territory of a bunch of ants, and in such a nasty manner at that. This was intolerable. Scram out here then. What's there to be afraid of? I'm sitting upright. I've never been afraid of anything in my life. The door to the hall suddenly opened, and two white-haired old men walked in. Their faces were filled with righteousness, and their bodies were filled with an awe-inspiring aura. They sat on 2 wheelchairs, and were slowly pushed in by 2 servants. Old 8, old 9. Xiao Xingyun's bent body suddenly straightened, and he looked at the 2 people who had walked in with extreme shock. After shouting out loud, he actually forgot what he should say. He was so shocked that he couldn't speak. Weren't these 2 things supposed to be hidden by them? Why did they come out? Fuck, what time is this? What are you 2 ancestors doing out here? Big brother, it's us 2 brothers. The 8th elder said with a slight smile. His expression and demeanor did not seem to be the slightest bit strange. The 9th elder beside him also had a friendly expression on his face. These 2 elders, whose minds had been controlled by Jun Imo Xia but could not be seen on the surface, finally made a dazzling appearance. 8th elder, 9th elder? You're back. What about Meng, and the others? Xue Shuangqing stood up anxiously and asked. She had not seen her little daughter for a long time, and she was already very worried. We 2 elders came back first, but the little princess and the others are not back yet. The 9th elder replied in a deep voice, and surprisingly, he was still somewhat polite. 8th elder, 9th elder, your legs. Han Zhanmeng looked at them in shock. What happened? How could this be? This time, it's a big matter. The 8th elder sighed mournfully, and suddenly looked straight at Xiao Xingyun. He said loudly, Big brother, as the head of the Xiao family, why are you bowing to this person? The Xiao family swears not to lower our heads, and never bend our backs. This is the same no matter who it is, so why are you bowing and bending your knees today? Fuck! Why are you still not getting up? As he spoke, his face was full of anger. The 8th elder, who had always been a yes-man to Xiao Xingyun, was actually acting out of character today. Not only did he contradict the venerable from the Holy Land, but he also berated his own big brother mercilessly. The moment he shouted, everyone in the Blizzard Silver City who knew him was dumbfounded. Was this fellow crazy? 8th brother, what nonsense are you spouting? These are the seniors of the hallowed grounds. How can we not treat such experts with respect? Xiao Xingyun's face turned pale with fright, and he hurriedly berated. Although he was berating, there was also a hint of warning in his words. These are people that we cannot afford to offend. Hurry up and apologize. Wei Kong-kun's eyes were already emitting a biting cold killing intent. He looked at the 8th elder and asked word by word, were you the one who insulted this old man just now? Elder Wei, please calm down. Xiao Xingyun hurriedly apologized with a smile on his face. He turned around and shouted angrily, what's going on? It's only been a few days since we last met, and you're already so unruly. Hurry up and apologize to Elder Wei. Big brother, this little brother does not dare to agree with this matter. The 9th elder's face darkened, and he said righteously. Big brother, our Xiao family has always been open and above board. There's no need to hide anything. Why do we have to be so indecisive? What do you mean by that? Han Zhanmeng and Xiao Xingyun asked simultaneously. At this moment, the faces of these 2 enemies showed the same expression, doubt and some fear. Big brother, since our Xiao family has the intention to rebel, we should just openly rebel. Yes. We've long found the Han family an eyesore. So what? The 9th elder straightened his neck and said in a heroic manner. Our Xiao family wants the position of the city lord, so what? We've been plotting for more than 40 years, so what? Are we afraid of saying it? With our Xiao family's current strength, do we still need to be afraid that the Han family can overturn the heavens? This old man really can't think straight, afraid that they can overturn the heavens? This 9th elder seemed to have lost his mind. His words were even more crude and unpleasant than a butcher's in a marketplace. Filthy words flowed out endlessly. What nonsense are you spouting? Shut up. Xiao Xingyun roared. He didn't know what to do anymore. They had obtained the support of the three Holy Lands with great difficulty, and they had seized the opportunity of the June family's revenge to seize the position of the Silver Blizzard City's city lord. As long as they succeeded, the Shao family would be the lord of the Silver Blizzard City. But he hadn't expected that these two fellows would suddenly appear at this critical juncture and speak the truth. They had actually exposed his plan. These two were the two people he trusted the most, and they were also the two most important people in the family. There was nothing that they didn't know. Big brother, how could I be speaking nonsense? How could I forget the important matter that we brothers had discussed together? This is an important matter that will affect our Shao family for generations to come. I definitely won't forget it. The ninth elder opened his eyes wide and said in a loud voice, "You called us brothers together 40 years ago, and said, our Shao family has been in the Silver Blizzard City for so many years. Even if we don't have any meritorious services, we still have to work hard. Why should the Han family always be the masters, and we always be the stewards? What's the point of having great authority? Our ancestors had founded the Silver Blizzard City, so why should the Han family have the final say now? We must take back the Silver Blizzard City. Let the Han family go to hell." "Big brother, you said these words yourself." Xiao Xingyun almost fainted from anger. His mouth was crooked, and his eyes were slanted. He was angry and anxious at the same time, and he shouted, "Nonsense! When did I say such things?" Everyone in the hall looked over with doubt, disdain, and so on. "Big brother, what's wrong with you? A real man dares to take responsibility for his actions. Since we've done it, we're not afraid to take responsibility. So what if it's the Silver Blizzard City? The Han family is nothing. They're just a bunch of weaklings. Why should we be afraid of them? Let's just kill them." The ninth elder's expression turned malevolent, and his mouth started to spew profanities. He then fiercely said, "Wasn't it because you and I plotted against the two elders of the Han family, Xiao Yu and Chun Feng, that they died a violent death in the western frontier? They were a big problem for us back then, and we've already done it. So, why should we be afraid of admitting it? The talents of the Han family have been declining in recent years. Isn't that the result of our series of plans? I've seen the disbelief in the eyes of those two old bastards before they died. But, I still feel delighted. Delighted. Roar roar." Xiao Xingyun was dumbstruck. He looked at his two brothers who seemed to be very clear-headed. Suddenly, he felt a burst of dizziness. He covered his forehead with his hand, and suddenly felt that the world was unreal. That's right. "Big brother, we plotted to poison the two elders of the Han family in the northern frontier, and caused them to lose their lives in the Great Desert. You personally planned it, and you personally carried out the plan." Smack! 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 "I'm dying of pleasure. So, what if we've done it? Could it be that the Han family will eat us up? Aren't they still in the dark and treated as fools?" The eighth elder smacked his lips as he reminisced. He roared as if he was presenting a treasure. He had even poured his Xian energy into his roar, and it shook the entire hall. Xiao Xinyan felt as if the world was spinning, and his body was on the verge of collapsing. He held his head and roared, "You two bastards! What nonsense are you spouting? Are you having nightmares in your sleep? Ah! You two bastards! You two sons of the asterisk cheese with your brains muddled! Big brother, how can you say that? How are we bastards? Big brother, we're your left and right hands. Besides, our parents aren't bastards. How can I be a bastard?" The eighth elder said in a puzzled manner, "Big brother, we're really not bastards. Our father's surname is Shao. Not Wang, have you forgotten?" Chapter 695. He would have to fight with these two sooner or later. If he didn't fight today, he would definitely fight tomorrow. If he could settle it now, wouldn't that be the best thing? At the same time, he could avoid unnecessary losses. After breaking through, Jun Moxie hadn't made a move yet. If he could use the blood of a 4th-level venerable as a sacrifice, it would be a pretty good thing. It would definitely feel great. Furthermore, this evil monarch who was proficient in assassination was already itching to show off his skills. Facing such an opponent, such a despicable and shameless assassination target, it would be unforgivable if he didn't show off his sword. He would be letting down the people and the continent. Therefore, Jun Mo Xia acted with the lofty thoughts of upholding justice on behalf of the heavens, benefiting the people of the world, and purifying the hearts of mankind. He acted with the heart of a saint who cared about the world and cared about the civilization of the universe. He swore to behead this trash under his sword, and to bring peace to the vast world of mortals. Today, this brother's sword is going to be the savior of the world for once. This sword seemed to have come from the heavens, causing the venerable of life and death, Wei Kong Kun, to feel his soul leave his body. Venerable experts were also humans, and as long as they were humans, they would fear death. This was especially so for those who had lived for a long time and held a high position. Such people were usually the most afraid of death. Once the impermanence was over, everything was over. Once one's life was over, the thousands of glories and 10,000 kinds of splendor would become history, turning into dust. Facing this sudden and shocking sword, even a powerful existence like Wei Kong Kun, who was a 4th-level venerable, had no way to dodge. The range of this sword was actually not wide. In fact, it could be said to be very narrow. Its target was only his heart. But regardless of the timing or the position, it was grasped to a level surpassing the heavens. Furthermore, it was so sharp that none of the experts present had seen it before. And because the target was small, the strength was also more concentrated. Once it hit, there was no chance of survival. Everything had happened too suddenly, and Wei Kong Kun could no longer dodge. He could only close his eyes and wait for death. But what a good Wei Kong Kun! As expected of a peak expert of this world. Even in such a terrible situation, he still had the ability to adapt. Wei Kong Kun actually let out a thunderous roar in that split second and took in a deep breath. In that instant, a hole actually appeared on his body. To be more precise, a hole had appeared where the heart used to be. At this moment, it was truly strange to the extreme. It was as if Wei Kong Kun's body had suddenly split apart, and his heart had mysteriously disappeared without a trace. Moreover, everyone could clearly see what was behind him from the position of his chest. The moment the hole appeared, Mo Xiaoyao's face turned as white as a sheet. Although this move was an ultimate move to save his life, it was also a move that greatly damaged his vitality. His heart and external muscles were all displaced, and his skin and bones were compressed in all directions, creating a vacuum zone. How could such a move be easy? Although Wei Kong Kun had successfully comprehended this move after reaching the 4th level of the Venerable Realm, he had never used it in a real battle. In fact, he didn't even intend to use it. Because he didn't believe that anyone could force him to such an extent. But today, no matter how much he didn't believe it, he had no choice but to use it. If he stubbornly refused to use it, he would definitely die. Greatly damaged vitality or dying on the spot, the choice was obvious. Although Wei Kong Kun was already gnashing his teeth in hatred, he still had no choice but to do so. He had even made preparations for the next step. As long as he successfully dodged this sword, even if he had to risk aggravating his internal injuries, he would retaliate with all his might. He would find this despicable scoundrel who had ambushed him and kill him with all his might. This person was simply too hateful, and too frightening. With such an enemy, he would not be able to eat or sleep in peace. Mo Xiaoyao could finally heave a sigh of relief, recovering from his shock. He immediately leaped up, charging towards Wei Kong Kun's back. His hands were already filled with Xian Qi, ready to snatch the sword away at any moment. It was obvious that the sword had been thrown out of his hand. Firstly, if it was in the hands of a person, even if they were one with the sword, they would not be able to move at such a shocking speed. Secondly, this sword was moving in a straight line, and there was no turning back at all. Its target was extremely simple, Wei Kong Kun's heart. Although Wei Kong-kun had expended a lot of vitality in this move, he had still managed to dodge this fatal killing move. As for this sword, although he had only seen it with a single glance, he could tell that it was definitely a peerless divine weapon. If such a rare divine weapon were to fall into the hands of a normal person, wouldn't it be a waste? Under such circumstances, it would belong to whoever managed to snatch it first. Thus, Mo Xiaoyao decided to accept it without hesitation. In just an instant. How fast was that imperial void flying sword? It had already flown into the hole that had suddenly appeared in Wei Kong-kun's body. Just as it was about to pierce through, the sharp tip of the sword had already pierced through Wei Kong-kun's back, glinting with a cold light. Mo Xiaoyao stretched out his hand to grab it. He was 90% confident that he would be able to grab this sword easily. However, right at this moment, the void-riding divine sword that was flying at high speed suddenly came to a standstill. The tip of the sword had indeed pierced through Wei Kong-kun's back, but the hilt and half of the sword were still stuck in front of Wei Kong-kun's chest. Then, in the instant that the sword stopped moving, under Wei Kong-kun's horrified and incredulous eyes, a purplish-black chi burst out. It was as if a bomb had been forcefully stuffed into Wei Kong-kun's heart, and then suddenly detonated. The series of shocking changes before their eyes had already caused everyone present to be extremely shocked. But this final change was even more out of everyone's expectations. Just a moment ago, everyone was still in shock that Wei Kong-kun was truly a venerable level expert, to be able to use such a miraculous technique to dodge that sure-kill sword. If it was anyone else, they would definitely be finished. But in the next instant, Wei Kong-kun was the one who was finished. That purplish-black chi suddenly exploded, gushing into Wei Kong-kun's body with extreme ferocity. Wei Kong-kun seemed to have been struck by lightning, and his body trembled violently. An expression of extreme despair appeared on his jade-like face. This kind of ultimate life-saving technique was something that should only be used as a last resort. At the same time that he used this technique, Wei Kong-kun had also expended a large amount of Xian Qi, causing his strength to fall to its weakest state. But at this critical moment, such a strange thing had happened. This was truly asking for his life. With a so sound, the long sword retreated from Wei Kong-kun's chest and floated silently 3 zhang in front of Wei Kong-kun. At the same time, the figure of a masked man in white also appeared in the air. His feet did not touch the ground, and he stood 3 chi above the ground, hovering in the air. Behind the mask, a pair of cold eyes looked at Wei Kong-kun as if he was looking at a corpse. Wei Kong-kun! You're finished! Wei Kong-kun let out a low roar, like the roar of a wild beast on the verge of death. In the instant that the sword left his body, the strange hole that had appeared in his chest suddenly disappeared without a trace. His body returned to its original state, as if he hadn't suffered any injuries at all. But just as everyone was feeling puzzled, Wei Kong-kun's body suddenly exploded with firecracker-like sounds. Pa pa pa, at this moment, countless tiny blood vessels appeared on his body, penetrating through his white robe like a misty spring drizzle. They were illusory and floated in the air, but the area around him was instantly drenched in blood and dyed red. Wei Kong-kun's body was still standing straight, and his eyes were still as sharp as an eagle's. He looked at the white-robed masked man in front of him and said calmly, "Supreme Assassin Chu Chihuan." His voice was filled with a rare calmness, without the slightest bit of emotion. There was no anger, no sorrow, and not even despair. It was the same as before. In fact, he was even calmer than before. His calmness right now was like a wise man who had seen through life and death, and had seen through the world of mortals. This venerable of life and death, at the last moment between life and death, had finally revealed the demeanor of an unrivaled expert. This white-robed masked man was naturally not the supreme assassin Chu Chihuan. It was Jun Moxie, Jun Dashao. Jun Moxie looked at the terrifyingly calm Wei Kong-kun, and a rare look of respect appeared in his eyes. Although this person before him was an enemy, and his actions were extremely despicable, and he hated him to the core, the other party's calm attitude in the face of death was still worthy of his respect. An opponent he respected, and a person he hated. This was not a contradiction, it had never been a contradiction. June Moxie replied with the same calm voice. Supreme Assassin? No. I'm the king of the world of assassins. The one and only king. He paused for a moment, and actually took 2 steps in the air. Today, I've come to let you all experience what a true king of assassins is, and to see how this lord's methods taste. Although his voice contained a lot of calmness and wisdom, it was also filled with a kind of arrogance that seeped into his bones and overflowed from his soul. Although his voice was calm, everyone who heard it could clearly feel that this person was using the attitude of a high and mighty king speaking to his subjects, looking down at them from above. Throughout the ages, only I am supreme. As long as the heavens are above, who can compare with me? Well said, I have to admit. You are indeed the king of the world of assassins. Wei Kong Kun smiled faintly. A trace of a smile suddenly appeared on his cold and stern face. That smile actually had a sense of beauty, as if a spring breeze had thawed everything. The lines of his smile were gentle, and it was so calm and graceful. He didn't seem like a heavily injured person at all. Wei Kong Kun continued slowly. To be able to kill me, Wei Kong Kun, is indeed not something a mere supreme assassin can do. Even the so-called supreme assassin would not be able to do so. Chu Chihuan, looks like you've broken through very quickly. Your improvement is also very big. The name of supreme assassin is indeed not suitable for you. Perhaps only supreme assassin is suitable for your current achievements. He actually ignored June Moxie's denial and insisted that this person was indeed Chu Chihuan. June Moxie was completely flabbergasted. Fuck, so domineering, sweat, who would have thought that a single report would cause everyone to be so angry, sorry. I'm officially telling everyone that the alarm has been lifted. I've been editing since last night, and I've been working all night until 9:30 this morning. The amount of editing isn't too big, but the problem is, the starting point has stipulated that the edited version must have more words than the original version. That's really worrying for me. Basically, it's only the cursing words that have been deleted, and I still have to rack my brains to fill in more words than the original version. The worst thing is that some of the chapters even have my request for votes. Although that doesn't take up any subscriptions, it still takes up a lot of words. How terrible would that be? After editing, I waited anxiously for the news, not even having the mood to sleep. I couldn't even continue to write anymore. I stared until noon when I received a phone call. The alarm has been lifted, continue sending. I'm going to faint. If I had known that it was a phone call and not a QQ notification, I would have gone to sleep long ago. Sob, after that, everything was fine, and my tiredness had also passed. I was actually incomparably excited. I grabbed a few beauties in the group and ferociously flirted with them before starting to write again. As I wrote, I laid on the keyboard. When I woke up in the afternoon, I saw that the document was filled with hundreds of pages of various symbols. When I looked in the mirror, my forehead was filled with English letters. The most ridiculous thing was that there was a Y on my forehead, a D on the left side of my face, and a comma on my chin. This keyboard is really harmful. If I continue writing, I'll exceed it again, and let me tell you my thoughts. Actually, I should be thanking you for this report. I didn't expect that it would have such an effect. First, it allowed my brothers and sisters to unite like never before. Second, there are more subscriptions and more gifts. I say, brother who reported me, I really can't not thank you. How much income have you increased for me? Third, you've really woken me up this time. Don't worry, I'll be careful and cautious in the future. I don't think I'll give you any more chances. You've directly guaranteed my long-term work. Otherwise, with my temper, who knows when I'll be disbanded. I'm speaking from the bottom of my heart, please don't think that I'm being sarcastic. I'm really, really grateful to you. Thank you. Second update later. Chapter 696. No wonder the three Holy Lands still suffered heavy casualties when trying to capture you. If not for your cultivation, it would truly be difficult. Wei Kong Kun smiled lightly. Ever since this old man came to Blizzard's Silver City, I've always been on guard against your appearance. I knew that you would definitely appear. You indeed did not disappoint me, but you've disappointed me in myself. I thought that I'd already thought highly of you, but I've still underestimated you. Indeed, seeing you in person is better than hearing about you in person. King of Assassins, you truly live up to your name. He smiled calmly and looked down at his chest. Then, he raised his head again and said bitterly, because even though I've been on guard with all my might, I still couldn't dodge that fatal sword of yours. Good sword. What a ruthless sword. June Moxie was extremely depressed. Are you fucking sick? I've already said clearly that I'm not the supreme assassin. Can you understand human language? You're already at death's door, but you still insist on it and say something like, you've improved. You've broken through. Fuck me. What the hell is going on? But what June Moxie did not know was that while he was feeling extremely depressed, there was another person who was even more depressed than him, on the verge of vomiting blood. And this person was currently crouching on the roof of the hall, watching this scene. That shocking sword of June Moxie's had caused him to almost want to clap and cheer. But Wei Kong Kun's next sentence almost caused him to vomit blood in frustration. He almost died from anger. I can't bear it anymore. You dogsh T3 Holy Lands are simply too good at throwing shit on this daddy's head. No matter what it is, even if it's by force, it's all on my head. Just like this time, I let you guys watch face to face, and you still put the blame on this daddy's head. Is there still justice in this world? The other party had already said clearly that he wasn't the supreme assassin, but they still insisted on throwing the blame on this daddy's head. What kind of bullsh*t argument is this? In truth, it was not only Wei Kong Kun who had suffered the same fate. Almost everyone present was certain that only Chu Chihuan, the supreme assassin venerable, no, the current supreme assassin venerable, would be able to stab out that peerless sword. Apart from the people at the top of the hall and the young Master June himself, no one else knew the truth. But you're going to die today. After killing me, Wei Kong Kun, how can I not be buried with him? Wei Kong Kun looked at June Moxie pitifully and shook his head lightly. Chu Chihuan, you really shouldn't have shown yourself after succeeding. Now that you've appeared, I'm destined to have a companion in the Yellow Springs. I won't be lonely. The moment he finished speaking, Wei Kong Kun immediately launched his attack. This was the last chance to attack in this life, the most tragic counterattack of death. Wei Kong Kun's body seemed to be breaking apart continuously, but the broken pieces of his body continued to attack. Yet, they continued to reform and reform. Just like that, he continued to attack with all his might towards June Moxie. His left hand would occasionally shoot out from his right armpit, and his right hand would also suddenly lengthen and shorten. His shoulders, elbows, toes, knees, thighs, and calves all became his sharp weapons. It was like a torrential downpour. June Moxie's sword had caused this venerable of life and death's life force to be completely extinguished, and he was definitely going to die. Wei Kong Kun's heart had long been smashed into smithereens by that black-purple chi. Although his life-saving technique could create a hole in the air to avoid that sure-kill sword, his heart was still there. It was just that he had temporarily concealed it. But the extreme sword chi that he'd unleashed was like a bomb exploding, completely shattering his extremely weak heart. Even his 5 viscera and 6 bowels had turned into mincemeat. But Wei Kong Kun was after all a peak expert who'd experienced heavenly tribulation. Even under such circumstances, he was still able to preserve his last breath of pure Xian Qi and not die on the spot. Not only that, he was still able to launch a final counterattack. And the ferocity of his attack was like a person who wasn't injured at all. A completely uninjured 4th-level venerable was launching a counterattack with no regard for his own life. He swore to go down the path of life and death with this great enemy. How could Jun Dashao allow him to do as he wished? Risking his life against a person who was going to die was the most unwise choice. He immediately executed his own movement techniques, dodging and moving around like a formless fog. Even if the Venerable of Life and Death used all his strength to counterattack, it was nothing more than a deathbed struggle. At this time, following an angry roar, another shocking aura surged forth. It was the unfettered Venerable, Mo Xiaoyao, who'd also made his move. The king of assassins in front of him was simply too frightening. If the Venerable of Life and Death, Wei Kong Kun's last breath of Xian Qi was used up, Mo Xiaoyao did not have any confidence in keeping him here. Thus, he could only join the battle and join forces, hoping to take down the king of assassins before Wei Kong Kun breathed his last. But even with the combined strength of two venerables, the king of assassins was still not at a disadvantage. This kind of movement technique was even more ghostly than a ghost. The remaining four venerables also rushed forward. The person before them was simply too terrifying. If they couldn't get rid of him, the consequences would be unimaginable. Just facing the Jun family and the Xian beasts was already difficult enough. Now, there was another king of assassins who could kill venerable-level experts. In an instant, the Xian Qi in the Great Hall surged violently like a tsunami. The entire Great Hall that was made of 10,000-years-old Xian ice also began to sway as if it was drunk. Creaking sounds that made one's teeth ache could be heard. Jun Moxie laughed heartily. Suddenly, the sword light disappeared, and his body soared into the sky like a white crane. Wei Kong Kun's eyes that were as calm as a dead lake flashed as he shouted, "Where do you think you're going?" Heaven and Earth Cage. Previously, Wei Kong Kun had been wary of Jun Moxie's miraculous movement technique, so he hadn't dared to use the Heaven and Earth Cage. That was because the Heaven and Earth Cage required a short period of time. Although the duration was short, it was enough to cause a fatal flaw. With Wei Kong Kun's current body condition, he would be done for if he was struck again. But with the help of 5 experts, the space that Jun Moxie could use was greatly restricted. Naturally, he had no choice but to use this sure-kill technique to kill his nemesis. An even more intense spatial ripple spread out, as if it wanted to separate the entire Great Hall into many independent spaces. But Jun Moxie's body, which should have been completely imprisoned, had disappeared at this moment. That white robe that had been fluttering in the air a moment ago had disappeared. Jun Dashao, who had been repeatedly sealed by Mei Xuyan, had long been on guard against this move. And after breaking through again, he was even more sensitive to any strange vibrations in the Heaven and Earth Qi in the air. In the instant that the seal was about to reach him, Jun Dashao had already flashed into the Hongjun Pagoda. In front of the Hongjun Pagoda, even the Heaven and Earth Cage that had never failed him before was now ineffective. Wei Kong Kun had just shouted those 4 words when a trace of fresh blood flowed uncontrollably from the corner of his mouth. He was already heavily injured to begin with, so executing such an ultimate move that consumed a large amount of vitality was undoubtedly speeding up his own death, but he still forcefully executed it. Wei Kong Kun's eyes stared fixedly at the sky above him. He wanted to see the pitiful appearance of his enemy being sealed in the air and then tear him apart. Even if he had to die, he wanted to avenge this great enmity, and he wanted to die after his enemy. But he was destined to be disappointed. His eyes that had been filled with the joy of revenge instantly turned into shock. The Heaven and Earth Cage had never failed. As long as it was an expert with a lower cultivation than him, no one had ever been able to escape from the Heaven and Earth Cage. There had never been such a strange situation before. Just what is going on? Could it be that I'm in a nightmare? But right now, it was happening right before his eyes. Suddenly, the Venerable of the Broken Sword, Hua Fengwen, screamed in pain. The shiny sword in his hand fell to the ground with a clang. His eyes widened in disbelief as he slowly fell backwards. An arrow of blood spurted out from his chest, shooting up into the sky with a pu sound. It had actually pierced a round hole in the roof of the Great Hall. That Venerable of the Broken Sword, Hua Fengwen, had been pierced through the heart by Jun Moxie. The Venerable of the Broken Sword had truly lived up to his name, fighting with his sword broken. Mo Xiaoyao roared, his eyes bloodshot. Chu Chi Hun, you must die. Just at this time, a white shadow flashed by the entrance of the Great Hall, and an illusory figure dashed out with a clear laugh. His laughter was filled with delight, as if he was provoking the experts in the Great Hall. Wei Kong Kun roared angrily, and the blood that was spurting out from his body formed a pillar of blood. Without a word, he chased after the figure. Mo Xiaoyao screamed mournfully, following closely behind like the wind. This was truly a great humiliation. All of the top-notch experts on their side were gathered together, but the other party had actually managed to kill a level 4 venerable and a level 2 venerable. Not only that, but he had also managed to escape unscathed. Mo Xiaoyao felt as if his face had been thrown to the ground and stepped on by countless people. How could he take this lying down? He swore to kill this brat, otherwise, how would he have the face to stand in this world? But just as he chased after the figure, he saw an unbelievable scene. In front of him, a white shadow flashed twice, and when it reappeared, it was already several tens of zhang away. Wei Kong Kun, who had just rushed out of the Great Hall, was just about to take another step when a strange wang sound rang out, and a strange white shadow shot out from the plaque above his head. A bright sword light pierced into Wei Kong Kun's back with a piu sound. Just one of them was enough to turn the world upside down, and there was actually another super assassin hiding here. After this white shadow succeeded in its attack, it retracted its sword and retreated like a whirlwind. But it did not forget to kick Wei Kong Kun's body back, sending him flying towards Mo Xiaoyao. Then, it left without looking back, its speed not inferior to his own. Chapter 697. The third chapter. Continue to work hard. I'm going to go crazy. Chu Chihuan had clearly not done anything, but he'd always been carrying the blame for June Moxie. How could the gloominess in his heart be small? In the past, he wasn't present at the scene, and although he was angry, he couldn't do anything about it. But today, he'd seen it with his own eyes and heard it with his own ears. He was truly angered to the point that his lungs were about to explode. The other party had already denied it in front of you, but you still insist on insisting that it's this daddy. Do I look like a fucking idiot? These fucking people from the 3 Holy Lands are 2 fucking bastards. The real Chu Chihuan, was here watching and listening, and that fake one was still denying it with all his might. Such an obvious matter, and you guys still can't understand it. That *T is still firmly pinned on this daddy's head. Chu Chihuan finally understood how he'd become the scapegoat. But this understanding only caused his chest to explode with anger, and his heart to be clouded with anger. As it turned out, this bunch of fellows from the 3 Holy Lands only needed to touch their lips to say who it was. Denying it was useless, and explaining was even more useless. It must have been like this in the past. No wonder he'd been made the scapegoat one after another. Meeting this bunch of retards, it was truly difficult not to take the blame, but bullying also depended on the target. Did they really think that this daddy was very soft? That they could do whatever they wanted? I don't believe it. This time, I'll make sure to be tough for you guys to see. Thus, Chu Chihuan's anger soared to the heavens, and his hair stood on end. In addition, he'd seen Wei Kong Kun charging out furiously with his back completely defenseless. That opening was extremely tempting. Such a thing, Chu Chihuan naturally did not hesitate to casually strike with his sword, forcefully severing the last bit of Xian Qi that Wei Kong Kun had forcefully gathered. With a successful strike, he'd immediately run away. That troublemaker has already disappeared, I won't continue to be a scapegoat here. By the time Mo Xiaoyao caught Wei Kong Kun's body, Chu Chihuan's figure was already more than 10 zhang away. Only his ruthless voice reverberated in the air, as if he was slowly venting his frustrations. This daddy is the true Chu Chihuan. Chu Chihuan. Weeping soul. Mo Xiaoyao only felt a mouthful of hot blood rushing to his head. Suddenly, his vision blurred, and he staggered a step before finally stabilizing himself. He swallowed the mouthful of blood that he had spat out in anger, feeling as though his eyeballs were about to pop out of their sockets. But at the same time, a new question popped up in his mind. If the one who appeared later was Chu Chihuan, then who was the one who launched a sneak attack in the hall just now? He didn't even dare to look at Wei Kong Kun in his arms. Because he really couldn't bear to watch. Just at this time, Wei Kong Kun moved in his arms and slowly opened his eyes. He actually smiled weakly and said, "Put me down." This venerable of life and death was truly tenacious. Not only had he suffered a fatal injury, but he was also struck by a sword and a kick from Chu Chihuan. Yet, he was still able to hold on and not die. Mo Xiaoyao's hands trembled, and he slowly placed Wei Kong Kun on the ground. Wei Kong Kun supported Mo Xiaoyao, allowing the countless wounds on his chest and back to bleed profusely. His body trembled a few times, and he finally managed to stand up with the strength of his legs. He forced his eyes open tiredly, looking at the beautiful mountains and rivers that were sealed in ice for thousands of miles. He sighed faintly as he looked at the beautiful scenery in front of him, filled with nostalgia. "Brother Wei, you..." Mo Xiaoyao looked at Wei Kong Kun with a pained heart, not knowing what to say. His cultivation was similar to Wei Kong Kun's, and his age was also similar. Yet, he could understand Wei Kong Kun's feelings at this moment. An extremely bitter smile appeared on Wei Kong Kun's face, and his eyes instantly turned calm. "I really can't do it this time. Who would have thought that I would have to bury my bones in this barren mountain of the extreme north? Brother Wei, you must pull yourself together. Perhaps there's still hope." Mo Xiaoyao said with a trembling voice, saying words that even he himself didn't believe. With his cultivation, how could he not see that Wei Kong Kun was already dead for sure? Even if a grand heavenly immortal descended, it would be useless. Even if Jun Moxie changed his mind and tried his best to save Wei Kong Kun, it would still be meaningless. Wei Kong Kun let out a long sigh and did not reply to Mo Xiaoyao's words. Instead, he continued on his own. "This old man has already experienced 393 springs and autumns. My cultivation has also reached the peak of my life. Luckily, the war for seizing the heavens is right before my eyes. I originally thought that I would be able to have a grand battle with the strange races on the battlefield. Even if I were to die at the top of the heavenly pillar, it would still be a beautiful thing. But who would have thought this would be the result? Only at this final moment did I realize that there are actually so many things that I can't let go of in this world of mortals. This old man is truly unwilling to die just like this. All these years, I've been arrogant and self-opinionated in the Holy Lands. Slowly, I've become hypocritical and heartless. The heroic spirit I had before I ascended to the Holy Lands has actually become so unbearably vulgar. It's a pity that I only realized that I've been wrong all these years when I'm at death's door. The past is truly unbearable." Wei Kong Kun's expression was calm as he spoke quietly. Fresh blood flowed out from his mouth, ears, and nose, dripping onto the ground. His voice also became more and more indistinct, but he continued to speak stubbornly, using his increasingly blurry vision to look at everything in front of him. In his daze, he felt as if he was floating lightly, flying to the top of the mountain. But when he looked around, he only saw a vast expanse of heaven and earth, as if he was the only one left in this vast world. A sense of desolation and loneliness rose in his heart, and he sighed lightly. "It's really so lonely." Then, this pinnacle expert just stood there, not moving at all. Mo Xiaoyao turned around in shock, only to see an indescribable loneliness and melancholy on Wei Kong Kun's face. It was as if he had never found a soul mate in his previous life, his next life, and his next life. His entire person had already lost all signs of life. "Brother Wei. Wei Kong Kun." Mo Xiaoyao called out twice, still harboring a tiny bit of hope. But there was no reply, and with a light push of his hand, Wei Kong Kun's body suddenly fell backwards, his body slowly fell straight to the ground. However, while his body was in mid-air, a pu sound rang out. A large hole appeared on his chest. It was the same hole that Jun Moxie's sword had pierced through, and it was also the strange hole that he had created himself. Then, countless pieces of internal organs the size of soybeans flowed out, accompanied by fresh blood. When he fell to the ground, his front and back were already transparent, and one could actually see the pure white snow on the ground. Then, this hole was slowly permeated by fresh blood, turning the same color. The venerable of life and death, Wei Kong Kun, had finally reached the end of his life at this moment when he had truly seen through life and death. Mo Xiaoyao's body trembled violently. He slowly squatted down, his heart suddenly filled with a sense of loss. A piercingly cold wind blew past, and even with his profound cultivation, he actually felt a heartfelt chill, rising from the bottom of his heart and spreading to his entire body. Thinking of Wei Kong Kun's last words, Mo Xiaoyao sighed in his heart. All these years, I've been arrogant and self-opinionated in the Holy Land, slowly becoming hypocritical and heartless. The heroic spirit I had before entering the Holy Land has actually become so unbearably vulgar. What a pity, I only realized my mistakes all these years when I'm at death's door. It's really unbearable to look back on the past. All these years were wrong. All these years were wrong. Was it really wrong? Jia Qingyun, Xiao Tianya, and Chu Wuqing also walked over slowly, their faces filled with indescribable pain. The Venerable of the Edge of the World, Xiao Tianya, was carrying the Venerable of the Broken Sword, Hua Fengwen's still warm body in his arms. Everyone looked at each other, and they could all see the pain in each other's eyes. The mountain wind blew gently, and it was a scene of desolation. Jun Mo Xia used the Yinyang escape to conceal his figure. Then, he unleashed his full speed, and rushed towards his last destination. It was a towering mountain peak that looked like a sword piercing through the sky. The collapsing snow mountain peak. This was the mountain peak. The key to the second half of the Dongfang family's vow. That was also where Han Yenyao lived in seclusion. Jun Moxie came to see his target, and the purpose of his trip. The third uncle's future happiness was Jun Moxie's real goal. Therefore, he insisted on investigating first. If Han Yenyao was not the person he imagined, or if Han Yenyao had already abandoned this relationship, then Jun Moxie would not hesitate to kill her before she met Jun Wui. Pretending not to see each other. This was not ruthlessness, but for the sake of the third uncle. If the truth was really like that, with Jun Wui's character, he would definitely not be able to live. Whether it was guilt or despair, it was enough to take his life. The source of all this blood-debt awe. Whether it was for the third uncle, for his father and brother, or for the Jun family, Jun Moxie did not care if he had to shoulder another blood debt. As for killing Wei Kong Kun in the Blizzard Silver City's main hall, Jun Moxie did not feel surprised at all. In fact, he did not even feel happy about it. Killing him was killing him, there was nothing special about it. No matter how indomitable he had been when he was alive, he was only a corpse after Jun Mo Xia's sword had pierced his chest. That was all. The only thing that made Jun Moxie feel happy and warm was Chu Chihuan. This supreme assassin had finally come. For the promise he'd made to him, he'd come here early. The sword peak pierced through the clouds, and it was almost completely straight from top to bottom. With the passage of time, the steps of several zhang were already somewhat blurry. Furthermore, it was covered in a thick layer of ice. If one did not have a high level of Xian cultivation, ascending the peak was no different from seeking death. The higher they flew, the more bone-chilling Jun Moxie felt. And that thin air, how could a young girl stay in such a place for 10 years? Jun Moxie's heart was already starting to loosen. When they were about to reach the peak, a black hole suddenly appeared in front of Jun Moxie. Under the cover of the snow, it was extremely conspicuous. Chapter 698. At this time, he was still deliberately maintaining the yin-yang escape, so he was naturally invisible and soundless, but after entering the cave, June Moxie was greatly startled. The ground was very dry and very clean, but no matter what, it didn't look like a place for a woman to live in for a long time. It lacked the expected smell of cosmetics. The cold air in the cave was actually a bit colder than the outside world, and the cave walls were smooth and shiny. Without looking, June Moxie knew that this cave was directly hollowed out from the 10,000 years old mysterious ice. However, the interior of this cave was quite spacious and deep. June Moxie only felt a trace of warmth after a few twists and turns until he reached the depths of the cave. On the innermost left, there was a narrow bed, the bedding was neatly folded, and there was a faint fragrance slowly drifting in the air. On the right, there was a stone table, and in the center, there was a praying mat. A slim figure in white sat quietly on the praying mat, her black hair draped over her shoulders, and she was motionless facing the north direction. June Moxie's fingers touched the smooth walls of the cave, and suddenly felt a bumpy feeling. Looking carefully, he saw that the surrounding walls were actually densely engraved with words. June Moxie fixed his eyes on them, and couldn't help but be shocked. Unintentional. Unintentional, the name of June Wui. 3 sides of the cave walls were engraved, the handwriting was thin, and from the looks of it, it should have been engraved with fingernails, and every word was extremely clear, and every stroke was neat and tidy. To use thin fingernails to engrave words on this kind of 10,000 years old mysterious ice, even a peak expert like Tian Xian might not be able to do it. And when Han Yanyao volunteered to be imprisoned here, it was definitely not Tian Xian. At that time, she was not even 20 years old, and was only slightly older than the current Han Yan Meng. Moreover, she had been pampered since childhood. How could she have such profound Xian Qi cultivation? If that was the case, then how did these handwriting come about? June Moxie was shocked in his heart. He carefully noticed that some of the handwriting was dark red. Presumably, it was the fingernails that were bleeding. June Moxie looked at the extremely simple furnishings in the cave. He looked at the delicate silhouette, and the wall was filled with June Wuyi's name. Everything was self-explanatory. June Moxie felt an inexplicable ache in his nose, and a strange and inexplicable feeling welled up in his heart. It felt like a burst of sourness and heat. There was no need to say anything. Han Yanyao was still the Han Yanyao in June Wui's heart. His third aunt. Looking at Tian Xiang every night, never looking back in this life. This woman had indeed never looked back in her entire life. June Moxie floated past her and looked at the stone wall that she was staring at. His heart couldn't help but tremble. On the last stone wall, there were actually 4 spirit tablets carved neatly. Jun Wu Hui, Jun Wu Meng, Jun Mo Yu, Jun Mo Cho. But the signature was, unfilial sister-in-law Han Yanyao stands respectfully. There was no need to say anything more. June Moxie had already deeply understood this woman's heart. Her love was stronger than gold, and her love was deeper than the sea. This delicate woman had long regarded herself as a daughter-in-law of the June family, a member of the June family. No wonder she was treated like this under the control of the Shao family. Not a single word was said, but June Moxie had already acknowledged this third aunt in his heart. This was a frighteningly unyielding, but stubborn woman that could move anyone, a woman worthy of respect. Suddenly, at this moment, Han Yanyao, who was sitting on the praying mat, sighed softly and said softly, "Who is it? Please show yourself." June Moxie was instantly shocked. No one has ever been able to detect my yin-yang escape, even venerable level experts have never been able to see through it. This woman in front of me is at most at the peak of Tian Xian, how could she be able to see through my presence? Please show yourself, your skills are extremely profound, and I did not detect it, but I can still feel your presence. Han Yanyao gently raised her head, her eyes clear and cold. Her eyes were very beautiful, expressionless, and her facial features were exquisite, as if they were sculpted by a skilled hand. Every inch was just right. Looking at this woman, June Moxie suddenly understood the true meaning of a phrase. Pure as ice and clean as jade. Han Yanyao's entire person was like a fairy condensed from the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, ethereal and transparent, like a green bamboo after a night of rain, spotless. There was not a single ornament on her body, and she did not have any ornaments, but she was like a lotus flower in the clear water, as if any ornaments on her body would reduce this otherworldly aura. She was just standing there, but it was enough to make anyone who saw her feel relaxed and happy. Moreover, facing such a peerless beauty, no one would have any profane thoughts arise from the bottom of their hearts. The only thing they could feel was admiration. Only the words pure as ice and clean as jade could barely match up to this peerless beauty, this bitter beauty. Han Yanyao's long eyelashes fluttered as she continued, "The person in the shadows, I admit that your concealment technique is extremely unique. I don't even have the ability to make you reveal yourself. I just want to tell you one thing. You have overlooked a very important fact. I have lived in this cave alone for 10 years, a whole 10 years. In these 10 years, aside from me, no one else has lived here. In this cave, every nook and cranny, I am extremely familiar with it. I am also very familiar with the smell and feeling of every moment of every day. I even know what kind of weather it is, how the airflow in the cave flows, I am very clear about it. Although your concealment method is ingenious, and I would not have been able to detect it with my own strength, but these feelings that are beyond the Xian skill all tell me that someone has come in." Han Yanyao said quietly, "I have already said to this extent, are you still not going to show yourself? With your strength, do you need to be afraid of meeting me?" Jun Moxie could not help but smile bitterly, and he removed the concealment method of the yin-yang escape, and showed himself. He really had overlooked this point. Han Yanyao had lived alone in this narrow cave for 10 years, and she had no one to accompany her. Every day, she was lonely, and her imagination ran wild. How could she not study those illusory things in her loneliness? And now, it was this boring research that seemed useless to anyone, that exposed her unique and wonderful yin-yang escape. Jun Moxie could only be speechless, and he was even completely speechless. In fact, this was not considered a special ability of Han Yanyao. This kind of sensitive feeling only needed to go down the mountain and mix with the crowd for a few days, and then immediately disappear without a trace after returning. But Han Yanyao had not taken a step down from the snowy peak for 10 years. The inside of this cave was not small, but, even if a person was given a space as big as a city to live in, and there was no one to accompany him for 10 years, perhaps this person would also have a great understanding of the flowers and trees in every corner of the city. This was because loneliness would force this person to find something to do. Even if it was a boring thing, it was still better than having nothing to do. Otherwise, it would really make people go crazy. "Who are you?" Han Yanyao quietly looked at this handsome young man in front of her, and suddenly her heart violently beat. Wife, so much like that person. Could it be? Thinking of this, Han Yanyao's body could not help but sway a little. Jun Moxie smiled apologetically, and did not answer. Instead, he tidied up his clothes, and respectfully kowtowed to the 4 memorial tablets on the stone wall. He heavily kowtowed 3 times, and then stood up. This action was more convincing than any words. Han Yanyao only felt a boom in her head, and a wave of dizziness came over her, and her face instantly became as pale as death. She violently swayed a few times, and only felt that she could see stars in front of her. She took a few deep breaths, and tried hard to calm the intense emotions in her heart, but her heartbeat became more and more intense, as if it was about to jump out of her throat. She hurriedly used her hands to support herself on the wall, and hurriedly took 2 breaths. Hot tears suddenly fell from her eyes like pearls from a broken necklace. She choked and said, "You are Monsieur." The person in front of her had a familiar face, as if she had seen him before. As soon as Jun Moxie said this, Han Yanyao immediately confirmed his identity. However, even though she had confirmed it, she still could not believe it. The person in front of her was the person she wanted to see the most, but also the person she feared to see the most, besides that person. Because this was something she had been looking forward to for 10 years. And it was something that she had long despaired of. Jun Moxie smiled and said, "Third aunt, you really have good eyesight. Mo Xie greets you. Han Yanniao felt dizzy, and she almost fell to the ground. She could not believe the words she heard. With tears in her eyes, she used her hands to support herself on the cold wall, and asked dreamily, "You, just now, what did you call me just now?" Third aunt. June Moxie said clearly, "Third uncle sent me to visit you. Tomorrow at the latest, we can take you back and let you reunite with third uncle." At this moment, June Moxie suddenly felt that the thought of what he would do if Han Yanniao had a change of heart was simply unforgivable. It was simply a typical scumbag thought, really whimsical. How could such a loving woman betray a change of heart? Han Yanniao clearly heard this sentence, and also clearly heard how June Moxie called her, but she looked at him with her eyes wide open, and shook her head in disbelief, as if she was still not sober. Tears flowed down, but she suddenly forced a smile, as if she was trying her best to make her image look better in front of her family, but she did not succeed. Suddenly, a muffled sob came from her throat. Her right hand that was propped up against the stone wall seemed to have lost all its strength in an instant. It slid down the ice wall powerlessly, and her whole body slid down to the ground. She sobbed silently, choked with sobs. Suddenly, she hugged her head tightly with both hands. Her whole body trembled violently, and her shoulders shook violently. Silently, but hysterically, she cried. Only the heavens knew how Han Yanniao had survived these past 10 years. Compared to Jun Wui, Han Yanniao was undoubtedly in much more pain. After all, she was a woman, and a sensitive woman. In these 10 years, guilt, yearning, self-blame, hope, and fear, not to mention the boundless loneliness and loneliness. She had always thought that she was Jun Wui's woman, and a member of the Jun family, but she had never dared to hope that the Jun family would acknowledge her as a daughter-in-law who had committed such a grave sin. And in her heart, she had always longed for this identity. She had even thought that as long as she could see Jun Wui once in her lifetime, even if she had to die immediately, she would still be satisfied. If she could engrave the word Jun on her tombstone after her death, she would be satisfied for the rest of her life. She would really be satisfied, and she had no other wishes. She had never dared to hope that the Jun family would allow Jun Wui to marry her, and she didn't even dare to think about it. Because she knew that the incident that year had dealt a huge blow to the Jun family, and how serious the harm it had caused to the Jun family, and the harm it had caused to this young man in front of her. But now, although the word third aunt from June Moxie was light as a feather, but in Han Yanniao's heart, it was as heavy as a mountain. Because this represented the June family's acknowledgement. Chapter 699. Han Yanniao was like a wanderer who had wandered away from home for decades, suddenly reuniting with her closest family in a foreign land. All kinds of feelings welled up in her heart. At this moment, she cried tears of joy. With June Moxie calling her third aunt, Han Yanniao was already satisfied. Everything was satisfied. 10 years of worry, 10 years of infatuation, 10 years of guilt. What kind of feeling was that? June Moxie sighed deeply. He understood Han Yanniao's current feelings very well. But as a junior, and the other party was a woman, and also his future third aunt. This, cough cough, it seemed that it was not appropriate for him to comfort her, might as well let her vent her feelings on her own. 10 years of accumulated feelings and grievances, fear and hope, that kind of feeling of gain and loss, had already tortured this former peerless beauty to the point of exhaustion. Letting her vent to her heart's content might not be a bad thing. The more Han Yanniao cried, the sadder she became. She cried until the sky darkened, and she almost fainted. After a long time, Han Yanniao gradually controlled her emotions, but she still lowered her head, and her body trembled uncontrollably. She asked, "Your third uncle? Is he, well?" Just asking this question seemed to have used up all the strength in her body. Although her voice was soft and low, almost inaudible, she hoped that the young man in front of her would give her a positive answer. "Third aunt, third uncle, is very healthy. His leg injury has already healed, and his cultivation has advanced by leaps and bounds. Now, He has reached the realm of Shenxian level 5. June Moxie deliberated and said, but I can see that third uncle is not good except for his good health. Especially not happy. He is not happy at all, how can he be happy? Han Yanyao said in a low voice, as long as I'm alive, he won't be happy. Because, everything, is because of me. It's all because of me, this inauspicious woman, that I've implicated him. It's not just unintentional, it's also big brother June, second brother June, and my 2 nephews. I'm truly guilty. June Moxie frowned, a little speechless. It seemed that this third aunt was even more unhappy, as if she had nothing to live for. This was not a good sign. Xia, please tell Wu Yi that I will use my death to apologize to brother June and the others. I have let them down, and I can only use my life to make up for my sins. Although I know that the life of this unlucky person is far from enough, I really have no other way. I only hope that in my next life, and in the next life, I will be able to make up for it. Han Yanyao's words became more and more incoherent, almost incoherent, and her tears fell to the ground. The reason why I am not dead yet is because I have been waiting for the day when the June family will take revenge. Now, that day has finally come. This means that I have finally taken my revenge. My wish in this world has been fulfilled. The Shao family. I will not let them off even if I go to the netherworld. June Moxie sighed, and his eyes turned, ignoring her words, and continued, but, there are 2 dead knots in my third uncle's heart. These 2 knots are very difficult to untie, and if I cannot untie them, I am afraid. Dead knots? Han Yanyao smiled sadly, I know, I understand, the first knot is the Shao family, this is relatively easy to deal with, and we can just kill them all. Revenge is obviously the best method, but the second knot is the Shao family's various sins. June Moxie's complexion became serious, and he explained the matter of the Huanghua Hall, this is very difficult to deal with. Han Yanyao heard about the Shao family's heinous crimes, and her whole body trembled with anger. She clenched her teeth and said, the Shao family is so insane. They won't even let a child off. They are worse than beasts. Yes. We didn't expect the Shao family to be so vicious, and not only were they not satisfied with our June family, but they also took out their anger on these innocent people. June Moxie continued in a serious tone, but, there will be opportunities to make up for these things in the future. But, the most important thing right now is the third uncle. These 2 knots exist in his heart, and I'm afraid that the third uncle will become a walking corpse even if he gets his revenge. Moreover, it is very likely that, he won't be able to live, because his heart is very bitter, and he will blame everything on himself just like third aunt, and it will be difficult for him to get over it. Wu Yi actually. Han Yanyao suddenly covered her mouth, and there was deep sorrow in her eyes. Wu Yi, you, my poor Wu Yi. This knot, no one can help the third uncle solve it. Perhaps only you, third aunt, have the chance to solve it. June Moxie was very smart, and from what Han Yanyao said, he knew that the knot in his third aunt's heart was probably more serious than the third uncle's, and it was even more terrifying. Regarding this, they must take measures. Otherwise, even if the third uncle thought it through, third aunt would still not be able to, and if an accident happened, it would be an irreversible tragedy. In fact, what June Moxie said about the knot in June Wui's heart was not a lie, but he had already solved it in many ways, and it had almost been eliminated. The biggest knot at the moment was Han Yanyao's heart. Me? How could it be me? Han Yanyao was so shocked that she forgot to cry. She raised her head and said, I, this unlucky person, am the root of everything, all the evil. If Wu Yi sees me again, I'm afraid he will only feel worse. How can I do it? Yes, it's because of you that so many things have happened. But now you don't want to take responsibility, and only want to die. Since there is a cause, there will be a result. If you still don't open it for him, who else can open it for him? June Moxie's voice became sharp, and Leng Leng said, do you still want to escape? You escape, you hide in the deep mountains, and no one can see you. You are free and unfettered. 10 years, it may seem lonely, but can you compare to those innocent children who are still in a life worse than death? Every night they scream, and those innocent souls who died tragically, they can't rest in peace in the netherworld. Do you think you are atoning for your sins by being imprisoned here? You are simply escaping. Don't say any more. Don't say any more. Han Yanniao suddenly covered her ears and cried out in fear, I will die. I will die, okay. A person dying is like a lamp going out, it is indeed the simplest way to escape. Die to end everything. Isn't this escape? Not only is it the simplest way to escape, it is also the most despicable way to escape. The most thorough way to escape. June Moxie's voice became cold. If you die to end everything, then what about these people who are still alive? Who can they rely on? These children, how innocent are they? Many of them don't have hands, they can't do anything, they don't have tongues, they can't speak, some are even blind, deaf, their legs are rotten, and the bones in their body are deformed. They will never have the chance to grow up. Even if they manage to survive, they can only be parasites in the future, without the ability to support themselves. But, who is willing to feed them for free? Moreover, these children are the descendants of countless brave soldiers. But now, even if they manage to grow up, which woman is willing to marry them? What kind of man is willing to marry such deformed people? If that's the case, won't these hot-blooded men have no descendants? If you don't take responsibility for these things, then who will? June Moxie Lengleng looked at Han Yanniao, it is because of you that all this has happened. Although you didn't do it yourself, the cause is because of you. You have always understood this, so why are you not willing to stand up and bear the responsibility that you should bear? Han Yanniao cried bitterly. Also, my third uncle's life has been ruined because of you. This knot in his heart is very serious, and after taking revenge, he will commit suicide at any time. You have already made him like this, do you still want to watch him die? My grandfather had 3 sons, and 2 of them were already gone. If third uncle were to go, would the old man have to send his son off again? Do you really want to see my June family suffer a great change again? June Moxie's voice was cold, yes, it is you. Han Yanniao, so many things, so many messes, all waiting for you to take responsibility for them, to atone for your sins. But you want to die, to escape from all of this. How can there be such a cheap thing? Then what do you want me to do? What should I do? What can I do? Han Yanniao cried out mournfully, her tears falling like rain, do you think I don't want to make up for it? Do you think I don't want to atone for my sins? But what face do I have to face them? Do you want me to beg those poor children to forgive me? Beg for forgiveness? What's the point of that? Why don't you try to raise these children, take care of them personally, so that they can have a family in the future and live a good life, so that the souls of the heroes who died because of you can rest in peace in the underworld? Is it because you are afraid of hard work, afraid that the road ahead will be difficult, so you don't want to do it? June Moxie's voice was sonorous as he spoke loudly. I will do it. Han Yanniao swung her head, gritted her teeth, and her eyes emitted a resolute light, I will take care of them, for the rest of their lives. June Moxie snorted and said, there's still my third uncle. Shouldn't you be by my third uncle's side, using your tenderness to resolve the layers of obstacles in his heart? Untie the heavy knot in his heart. The root of all this is because of you. You can only use your own hands, your own ability, to resolve these sins with your own hands, only then can you atone for your sins, only then can you be at ease. This. Han Yanniao looked at him in shock, but she couldn't speak. The person she was most afraid to see now was the person in her heart that she couldn't let go of the most, the person she loved the most. The person she loved the most. The person she thought about countless times in the middle of the night, the only person she could see in her dreams. Jun Wui. Do you think that it's enough for you to do everything yourself? What about my third uncle? My third uncle also needs to do these things to achieve psychological balance. The root of the sin is not only you, it's also him. Do you understand? June Moxie said aggressively, and the reason why he is like this is because of you, from the beginning to the end, it's all for you. Do you understand? This is your responsibility. You have to bear it. I am willing to bear it. Han Yanniao closed her eyes and shouted, her tears falling like crazy, I will carry it until I die. Is this okay? In another hour and a half, which is tomorrow, it will be the 20th birthday of our cute little sister, little Yuan Bao, in the group. Oh! This little sister is lively and cute, everyone likes her very much, she's our little joy, haha, let's wish her a happy birthday. You're tuning into the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.